And in fact, I think your testimony was that 10 minutes after you got home, he opened the bedroom door?
I think that's what I said, yeah.
Do you want to stick with that?
I'm just trying to recollect what I, thinking it over. So obviously it was a little bit longer.
Because you actually woke up when he opened the bedroom door, correct?
I don't think so.
Did you not just testify before this jury just, I don't know, maybe an hour ago, that you fell asleep and that your son Colin opened the bedroom door and woke you up to say goodnight?
Yeah, I guess that's what I said.
Okay.
Time I never made it past the front foyer area.
So the answer to my question is no, you did not.
I never made it past the front foyer area.
Because Sergeant Link was talking to everyone at the same time, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting around the table. It was a little, everyone was, we're all in shock, and it was a little confusing.
Welcome. We're live, but welcome back. Another night, another dream team. So much testimony today. Couple things I noticed today. Well, we'll talk, I'm sure, about Turtle Boy. But couple interesting things is the conflicting statements. We just played it from Sergeant Lank and the wife of Brian Albert, and also the clip we started with Chris Albert. You sure you want to stick with that? You sure you want to stick with that, Chris Albert? A couple things. I noticed that Brian Albert didn't want to say the word Bukanak. Bukaki. I think he was afraid to say Bukaki today. Like his wife didn't want to say Fort Edge. Like they don't all watch Turtle Boy religiously. Let's bring up the guests and see what their thoughts are. We got an all-star panel back. We got Mazza Media. What's up, brother?
How you doing? I just wanted to ask the audience tonight, who, if any of you, are ready for tonight's show?
I don't think any of us were. I thought I was going to be late here. But I think everyone's pumped up. Everyone is ready to go tonight.
Oh, I'm fired up tonight. I am ready to go. I am ready for this show. I am pumped up tonight. So let's go.
Have you eaten all your buffalo chicken wings?
Oh, they were gone about 40 minutes ago. Yeah, I had probably about 14 of them. Yeah, mowed them down. Celery sticks. There was questions on X about what kind of dipping sauce I used. It was blue. I'm team blue cheese.
I
team
use blue cheese with the buffalo wings. That's the only way I use blue cheese, and I'll eat the celery too. I love the celery. Oh yeah, and the carrots, whatever you got.
Yep, blue cheese and celery. That's my jam right there. So.
Oh, excellent. I'm glad you enjoyed them because I'm oogling them. I want to.
Well, you never know if a troll's watching, and you never know if a troll out there may send chicken wings from Domino's to your house. So you can always help.
I always have cash in my pocket just in case it's something delivered that I want to eat.
I probably shouldn't have given anybody any ideas that are trolls out there. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah. The good thing about me is I like most things from Domino's and all
right. Yeah.
We also have returning again. I don't know how many nights it's been. It's been like 5 out of the last 6 nights, I think. Criminal defense attorney Mark Bederow. Welcome back to the show. You're looking casual Friday. I love it.
Yeah, I just changed out of the lawyer bat suit 10 minutes ago, and it's Friday night, and we're talking shop. The Bruins are on, so you have to be casual. No wings, but you did steal my thunder because I was going to ask what, if anything, we were going to talk about. But
oh yeah,
I guess I'm in second on the gag. So
all right. I'm sorry for stealing the joke theft. You can sue me in court, and I'll pay the royalties back to you.
I knew before I'd sue you.
That's right.
Hope so. You come to Massachusetts. People are asking if you'll ever come to Massachusetts in the bar here.
I need some wins. I need some wins, so I have a good excuse. Yes.
There we go. Tag them in if Karen Reed's defense team needs any help.
Yeah.
So I don't even know where to start because we just had a week of testimony. Brian Albert today, it was almost kind of a letdown in a weird way, but I mean, it was exciting to see him on the stand knowing what's coming Monday. cross-examination. What did you guys what did you think about today, this week? What do you want to talk about?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Mazza.
sure. I'll take it away. So I was actually happy that the cross-examination portion of Brian Albert did not take place today. I didn't want a situation where they were only able to get started for about 15 minutes. I want them to really have like a nice isolated period of time where they can go all day if they need to here. And I really think that that worked in their favor today, in my opinion. For the Julie Albert, I thought that they picked it up pretty well today, but I think that they kind of caught her basically being like, well, she mispronounced the state police officer's name quite obviously this morning. I got a lot of messages in my inbox today about that. Like, did you hear what she just said? I'm like, oh,
Bukaki.
I heard that. Yeah. I was like, actually, I did a double take. I'm like, she just didn't say that, did she? She
Yeah.
just did not say that. Yeah.
And then
I
the
was like,
husband was like, I don't know that guy's last name. Is it Yuri? The guy Yuri? What's his last name?
yeah, just go with Yuri, man. Just go with Yuri.
Oh, with Yuri, because
Uh,
they're all watching it and they all say the same. Bukaki.
oh, crazy. It was a wild day. It was a wild day. I thought that the Nicole Albert portion of the actual trial that was actually related to the Karen Reed trial, because we know there was some extracurricular activity going on in court today, but I thought the Nicole Albert moments were the most intriguing part. I thought the Brian Albert part was really just like spoon-fed questions from Adam Lally, this, that, this, that. Oh yeah, sure, yeah. And Brian was calm, cool, and collected because he knows that it's Lally, and every witness so far that's been a McAlbert has always been very calm, cool, and collected when it's Lally asking them questions. But when it comes time for the cross-examination, that's when you need to break out the popcorn, because this is when they start to get a little bit rattled. Sometimes people get a little testy, and it's going to be big time on Monday. It's going to be tough waiting more than 48 hours, or 48 hours or less or more. I'm not going to do the math, but too late on Friday night for math. But it's going to be big time on Monday when I'm presuming it's going to be Alan Jackson, I'm guessing, head to head with Brian Albert. So that is going to be huge, absolutely huge. The Chris Albert cross-examination was obviously my favorite to watch this week, probably many others out there, but Brian Albert's going to be a big one. And I actually kind of admittedly swore out loud when I was watching it when he said that his ears are immune to sirens and emergency alarms such as EMT, fire trucks, police vehicle, etc. And I was just like, no, dude, don't get, actually, first of all, I will say this. That was a great bullshit excuse. That was actually I'm like thinking like that was actually a nice bullshit excuse to use. I'm like, that was pretty crafty, but I'm not buying it though. I'm not buying it, but that was a crafty way of saying it. But I don't buy that at all. There's too much activity. There's loud noises. There's voices outside. There's lights flashing all over the place. Even apparently some woman that we all know and love, not really, ended up walking right in the house at some point. So we know that there was more than enough activity at some point in the early morning hours of the 6 a.m. range of that morning. So it's just, he's gonna be, he was very cop-like. You can tell the guy was an ex-Marine. You can tell the guy was an ex-cop. He's very, very stoic. My uncle was an ex-Marine, Vietnam vet, was a cop his whole life, same mentality, same posture. He's your typical cop Marine combo there with just his posture. Not very stoic guy, a rugged looking guy. I'd say so rugged that I there was a famous award-winning journalist out there that I would say was making a great point today that, why would a guy like Brian Albert be so intimidated by Turtle Boy? Considering that Brian Albert's, he has a very tough posture. So Turtle Boy made some great arguments there. But, just again, simple answers from him. Like I said, the most notable thing for me was the way he answered the question about that. And I think that the cross-examination is going to dig into that for quite a duration next week. About why didn't you come out the house? I think they're going to talk about first responders having obligations. I was on another show last night. We had that conversation. We actually talked about first responders that are off duty, or even nurses and doctors that are off duty have an obligation to tend to scenes that chaos is going in, medical emergencies, anything like that is always something that should be tended to. And there's really no excuse for any first responder to not at least open their door and take a look outside and ask if this is something that the first responders could use their assistance with. Because I know if I was in his situation and I was a cop and I found out that there was a major incident going on my front yard, then I would definitely go out there and at least take a look out of curiosity and say, I'm so and so. I'm with the Boston Police. I live in this house. I'm the homeowner. What the hell's going on my property? That's what I would have done in a normal situation. So.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up the noise thing too, because I live like on a main road, a lot of traffic, a lot of noise. Trains, train further away than they, not as close to them as the train is to me. But I still hear that, like a lot of background noise here. But if my dog is howling, if someone's out there, my dog is loud. And I have a feeling that dog was probably going crazy when that was going on. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way the dog didn't wake them up. I
Right.
just don't buy that the dog didn't wake them up on the noise.
Exactly. Doug.
And also, you made a great point about the intimidation of Turtle Boy. I find it so hilarious that 2 state police detectives, Yuri and Michael Proctor, are afraid of a blogger. They're intimidated. Like, if you're in the state police and you're intimidated by a blogger, you need to find a new line of work.
Well, it looked like he was intimidated by Free Karen Reed movement members that were behind a wall of a buffer zone today when he had about approximately any more than 5 to 10 Massachusetts state police escort him in there, looking like stormtroopers escorting Darth Vader during the Imperial March. That's pretty much how it looked today. That's my first movie reference of the night. There will be more.
He really did, though. I mean,
Yeah,
this is the second day in a row he's gotten that kind of escort in.
Yeah.
And Attorney Bederow, what do you think?
Well, more of the same. I still start with that they're doing it a little out of order because they've entered the phase of the case, I think, where they're trying to establish that the Alberts and McCabe's are innocent before they're trying to establish that Karen Reed is guilty. And they are going to have to, at some point in a case like this, given the defense, attempt to knock out the defense argument. But, why you would start with a negative. I mean, they're trying to disprove that before they even address their own burden. So I think.
Oh, so glad you brought that up. Doesn't it seem secondary convicting Karen Reed? It seems like the whole purpose of this is PR for the Alberts, the McCabe's, and the DA, just to say we're not guilty.
I don't know if I'd call it PR for them so much as because I think they have to do this at some point if they're going to win, or at least in their mind think they're going to win. But I don't know why, given how disjointed the opening was, given how the evidence has been clunky, irrelevant, repetitive, but clunky, irrelevant, and repetitive on non-significant details to their case. I mean, I think we're all good that, Chris Albert left the bar at 12-13. We've got it, no question there, all that kind of stuff. But none of that is that important. There's nothing about the defendant in the case. And then when you get to the actual specifics, I mean, Julie Albert is a disaster. She was a disaster yesterday. I have to tell you, I think they let her off the hook a little bit today. That's just my own view. I mean, I think they certainly did a good job in bringing out more about the phones and whatever. But at least in my estimation, they should have gone at her on 2 other topics, even though they still have an opportunity to impeach her through other witnesses. But judging how nervous she is and how, frankly, unintelligent she appears and willing to just make mistakes, I would have absolutely confronted her about this text message that exists between the other 2 women. Now, they couldn't have used the actual text message because it's not her document. She could just say, I can't be blamed for what 2 people are talking about. I'm not the right witness. But the message says, Julie wants to give you a gift. There's a good faith basis to do it. And I would have asked her whether she said that, and I don't know what she would have said. She might have said, I don't know. Who cares? Jury hears it. They know it's coming. And then you do it through the other women. And then the other thing that I thought at some point they were going to do that they didn't do was her statement to, and Chris Albert, frankly, both of them. It appears to suggest, at least on page 1, that they were at 34 Fairview Road. It's not clear. On page 3, it talks about her migraine headache, and all of that she didn't go. But the point is, I would have asked her, are you absolutely certain you never went? And did you tell the detectives that you did? And she would say, no, 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 I didn't tell them that. And then you just confront Proctor's partner, really. He's the one who wrote the document, and ask him if that's what she told him. And he has a choice to make. He can say yes, because I wrote it, or no, I'm just a moron and can't file a report. And either way, I think that's good for the defense. When they moved into the wife of Brian Albert, what do they call her? Coco? Or
Coco.
whatever. Nicole Albert. She was, to me, fascinating for the simple reason, on her direct, she definitely, up to that point, appeared on direct to be the most reliable Albert. She was much less visually nervous, offensive than everyone else we've seen so far. But as often happens, why you have to wait for the cross, there were some points that came out, and the impression that I was left with her is that she's full of shit. And the reason why, the way I look at it is, she's the mama bear, okay? And I'm the protector of this family, and I'm the one who's going to tell it like it is. And what she basically did was just disappear Colin again from all of this, as if he wasn't there mostly. She protected Caitlin to some extent. She wasn't there. The Ford Edge wasn't there. I thought she made a huge mistake with the dog. I'm a dog person.
Totally.
I know you're a
Totally.
dog person.
Yeah.
Probably some jurors are dog dorks too. And I can tell you, if it hit me and it hit you, anyone else who's a real dog person, no one ever talks about their dog as an it. You laughed, or like one of your kids, or you treat them better than your kids sometimes. And so I thought that did not come off well at all, as did her, explanation about getting rid of Chloe. Because on the one hand, she tried to say the biting incident wasn't her fault. It was the people got in the way. But then later on was saying we had no choice because, she was biting. There was this issue of, did she get disappeared to Vermont, or, is she under the old basement floor? I don't know. But then this idea came up that perhaps the DA knows something and they didn't disclose that, which could be a problem. But so I think the mother, she didn't help them. I think she came off as a little, again, on cross, a little evasive. The only thing that I thought they left is the very end of the cross. I thought there was a little more to draw out when we're talking about, well, let's back up. What the mother said was, my first reaction was, I didn't even know who she was talking about, when the hysterical, but not really, McCabe came in, freaking out, saying, oh my God, he's dead. And the mother had said, I didn't even know she's talking about it. It could have been one of my kids. Well, guess what? Then you jump out of bed at lightning quick speed and say, what are you talking about? And run outside. And even if she says, no, 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 it's the other guy, you go outside right away. I mean,
Exactly.
and when she said, at the very end, that I didn't do that, I thought the next thing to do would have been to kind of say, but you didn't even know who it was, and to see what that was. Not a big deal, though. I think she was discredited. And then Brian Albert on direct comes off okay. I mean, as people noted, he's the most experienced of the bunch, but I think he really subjected both himself and McCabe. We have a little Lola sighting, if this is okay.
Oh, yes.
Come up. There you go. All right. There you go. Want to say hello? Okay.
Oh, what a cutie. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
beautiful.
All right. Get down.
Love her.
All
Is
right.
it girl dog?
Yeah. Two girls.
Oh, my
Um,
boy would love her.
Anyway, all right, she's gonna stick around. All right, she's gonna eat the garbage and stick around. I think with Brian Albert, he got too cute too with how distraught McCabe was, and that's just not what you saw on the dash cam video. What you saw all the witnesses say what you heard on the 911. I mean, there's no way that she was relatively calm, even cold, some people might say, in terms of the way she was handling all this. And then she somehow ran into the house and was screaming. I don't think that is going to do him any favors. And I just think that there's going to be a lot. The weekend is a huge advantage for the defense. I think this did not end the way that perhaps the prosecution would have wanted it to, but
100%.
a lot of that's their own fault, again, for just dragging out all this other stuff. But I would assume that Brian Albert is going to get sliced, diced, and just
Destroyed.
because there is so much. And, look, I know what he said. I made no phone calls after 2 a.m. And this is what I'll never understand, point number 842 about Lally. At what point do you acknowledge that the defense lawyers are prepared? So I'm not going to sneak a fastball on the inside corner and hope that they miss it. So these butt dials that we know are coming, right? And there's too many of them, right? Maybe one, maybe. And at some point, why doesn't he bring this out on direct, deflate the balloon? And after he says are there any phone calls? And he says no, then why not ask him, well, have you had a chance to see any phone records and, da, 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 da. And how do you respond to that? And he says, all I can think of is it's probably a butt dial, something like that. He keeps leaving bombshells for the defense to bring out, and it makes the DA look sneaky. It's like helping the defense because he's
absolutely.
So I think overall, again, the needle, tilts towards them. Although I don't think it was a huge day. I don't want to overstate it.
Right.
But
A lot to look at there. What you were mentioning. One thing, obviously, I love to talk about dogs. So I go back to the irresponsible dog owner. I feel like at least one person on that jury probably feels the way that I do, and the way my girlfriend does. She's not someone who's been following this like I have. She has no opinion on it. She hopes that I'm right. She hasn't made, she doesn't know enough about it. She believes law and order will be decided, but she was listening today.
It's offensive.
And when she heard that about the dog situation, she was like, irresponsible dog owner. Like, because they blamed it on, like you said, they blamed it on other people. And then they gave up the dog. So there was obviously a situation there. There was obviously a problem dog situation. A lot of us have dealt with them. But how do you deal with it? You get a trainer, you get a professional. You don't let it happen over and over again. You don't blame it on other people. You take responsibility for your pet and you try to protect them. And it seems like they're not.
No.
They're what we call irresponsible dog owners. They're the customers we will not take on. The ones that we will have one meeting with and we won't return their calls. Like they have the red flags. Like we look for the red flags when we have new customers. And they are red flag customers by far. We would never accept them as customers.
So there's 2 points about the dog that I think also, one of them is a summation point, but I think they did leave a little on the table with the mother on the dog. But the reality is you can do this with every other Albert. What I would have done, I mean, you could do this for 20 minutes on a point like this. When you first bring up the dog and, we got him from this rescue in Texas, and say, well, who named him and how excited was the family to get her? And, whose dog was it and who trained, and really how much you love that dog and what a part of your family that was. And I would have dragged that out as long as I could about how because what's the answer? You can't say like, you know what, I don't really care about my dog. And then once they acknowledge how much they like the dog, I mean, it gets worse when you give it away. And I would ask questions about whose decision was it to get rid of the dog? This never came out. Whose idea was it to disappear Chloe? And let me ask you this. Were you upset? Was whoever else was living in that house, were they upset? Tell us how you decided. Did anybody say, no, I don't want to get rid of it? Why didn't you get a trainer? Why didn't you, do this, do that? No, what you did was just drive
the easy way out.
You drove your dog halfway to Vermont and said, well, I kept up communication for a few months. And in summation, of course, they will say, who in the hell, after 6.5 years, would ever do that short of something,
Yeah.
that you can't even fathom. So I think the dog is gonna come back and bite them. But I would also, every single Brian Albert, I would do it with, and anyone else who lived in that house, if they're going to testify, I would ask them about how much they love that dog.
I hope they bring it up because I think that it will definitely resonate with some dog owners. A lot of us too, we take our dogs to the parks, we go on walks, and we're always afraid of that irresponsible dog owner. I mean, so I think a lot of people that have dogs are very sensitive to that issue. So I think I would go far. Another thing you brought up, which I want to get into big time, because the witness order, because there was a list that has been leaked. I don't know if this is official. I don't think anyone does, but it's been spread around and it looks pretty accurate so far. It's got a list of prosecution witnesses and the order. And there's expected to be dozens more witnesses before we get to what we all want to see, the heart of the matter, the meat, the state police detectives, the state police crime lab. They're all at the end. They're going to put us through weeks more of this shit before they get to it. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm thinking in terms of how many, and I'm looking up. I'm not trying to avoid the camera. I'm thinking of all the trials that I've participated in, watched, or whatnot, just been involved with in some capacity, hundreds and hundreds over the years. I can't ever remember, certainly not a murder case, in which it doesn't have to be chronological in terms of how events happen, but there is a logical flow to how you do this. And to me, it would have been the first responders. That's totally appropriate. You got to introduce the man is dead, and here's how they found him. I mean, not over 4 days, of course, with, repetitive testimony. So that was fine. And then at that point, I think the logical answer would have been, I hate to say it, either McCabe or one of those women from the Panic or the police. And when by the police, you just build the investigation. And even if you want to start with the Canton police, just to say they arrived, we did this, you can't leave Proctor to the very end unless it's not clear. I hate to say this, but maybe the final determination has not been made. But if he ends up testifying as a prosecution witness, and the worst thing you could do is let this hang. I mean, they came after him in the opening. Everybody knows about the text messages and all the relationships, and he's going to get pounded and pounded and pounded. And then you're going to bring him at the very end to, make the case. I mean, there's finishing weak and there's finishing really weak. And to finish with him at the end is just a disaster.
It really is. What do you think, Mazza?
That's disappointing to learn. I was hoping that they were going to go more along the lines, because they started with a batch of first responders right off the bat in the early days of the trial, and they transitioned away to more of what I call the lower level individuals that were in attendance at the waterfall that night. And then they've transitioned into more of the McAlbert clan. Folks that were at the waterfall may or may not have had something to do with any incidences at 34 Fairview Road. So it's very shocking to me that if that's the accurate list and that legal list is official, of course, that they would be all the way tucked at the end, because I thought maybe they'd bring them in at some point before perhaps more expert witnesses start to come in. And by experts, those are people that can start to review things, debunk things, go over technicalities of things that, rates of speed, taillight brake, just anything that they may have out there for individuals that would be experts. And I figured those individuals would probably be saved towards the latter part of this. And that's kind of shocking to hear that they're going to wait, because Michael Proctor on the cross-examination is huge. And that's something I would absolutely die to see, because as everyone's been anticipating, I mean, pretty much at this point, I'm surprised that the betting apps don't have will Michael Proctor plead the fifth, and if so, over or under 20 times available on betting apps right now, because it seems like that's what we're in for at some point. I'd hate to wait that long to see what's going to end up occurring with him. And I'm sure that the defense would be foaming at the mouth right now to cross-examine him. And I'm sure that they, I like how Mark said it, because I felt confident about Brian Albert today not getting cross-examined, and I was very I felt like my points were very well validated by Mark as well, that he also felt the same way. I'm glad I'm not alone there, because it gives them a great opportunity to plan over the weekend and really come out with a great game plan and plan of attack. And they can probably look more into Nicole Albert's testimony today, and also see if they want to ask any additional questions, or perhaps skew some questions that they may have for him in a certain direction that may get a more sufficient answer that they're looking for out of him. And again, he seemed calm, cool, and collected today. Very, like I said, stoic. But when that cross examination happens, it's going to be interesting to see if he does get a little restless and nervous. And quite honestly, I mean, some were suggesting that he was looking at something when he kept looking down. Maybe, maybe not. And if maybe not, then perhaps maybe that was just a sign of nervousness, even when he was being cross-examined, but not cross-examined, speaking with Adam Lally today. So it's going to be. This is going to be very interesting. I thought today was very kind of much a standard day. I think Mark alluded to that a few minutes ago. I didn't think that today was really a bombshell day, but I thought Nicole Albert was the most, based on she was the only one that was really fully, Adam Lally went, the prosecution went, the defense went. She was the only one that really had like the bulk doses today. Where with Julie Albert, you kind of knew like today was going to be probably a little bit more of the, falling out of whatever was talked about yesterday. But today, Nicole Albert was very intriguing to listen to. And one of the things I noticed, and this was really getting under my skin quite a bit, was when the Ford Edge was brought up. There were a lot of questions about the Ford Edge, and Adam Lally repeatedly objected to that on an endless basis. And
Yeah.
Judge
He's just
Canoni,
flagging it. He's just flagging this hurts. That's
yeah,
an ouch objection. That's why
yeah,
he's an idiot. You don't do that.
yeah,
You have to let the other side. They have a right to present evidence
that's right.
too. Not every fact is a great fact in a trial.
That's right.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be trials.
Doesn't it bring attention to it? Doesn't it bring more
Yes,
attention?
does.
to it?
yes, yes.
It does. Yeah.
It's an ouch objection. Everyone, I don't like
Yeah.
this. This is bad for me. Can I say
Yeah.
two things? One about the
Sure.
Brian Albert, why it's an advantage. So there is this thing called a transcript that you can get, where you literally have a transcript, and there is a thing called daily copy if you want to pay for it, where you can get the transcript right away. You can be sure that these guys are going to order the transcript. They're going to have literally the court reporter's written transcript of what Brian Albert said. Now that's a lot easier to prepare with than just looking at your, quickly scurried notes and do this and do that. So having, all day Saturday and Sunday, I would think that they're going to have an opportunity to have a transcript. One other thought, just to go back to the weird order that they're doing this in, they're also like leading the jury on and then not delivering. So when they start talking about the bar, what do you think everyone thinks is coming? Tell me she was hammered and what the proof is. Okay, here we go. This is going to be something. And they march up however many witnesses they did. I can't even remember how many it was. And they all, to a man and woman, basically say stone cold sober, didn't seem to drink that much. She had a glass from the other place, and for all intents and purposes, she kept it. Okay, fine. At that point, where's Proctor? Because this is a really interesting thing. There's a document in a motion or something that I had seen, I don't remember where, in which he alleges that he went to the waterfall, he met with the manager, secured the video, watched the video, and it's Proctor who says that there's this video that shows her drinking like 9 drinks or something over the course of whatever. Now, normally what people like me think is that when a cop is citing to video and citing to very specific times in the video with very specific details, you kind of give them the benefit of the doubt that there must be a video, and maybe there still is. But here's what's crazy. They've called 7 or 8 witnesses at the bar, and nobody has said what presumably the video would show, which is her just going up and down, up and down. And so when you get to Proctor, if there's no video and he made all these representations that there is, that is going to be another huge, because that would be just a lie.
Stick
And
a fork in them.
There's going to come a point where the defense is going to bring up either through Proctor or somebody, did you go to the waterfall? Did you, we have the cameras of the people where are the cameras, at the bar? Now, the waterfall video, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you can't really see the bar per se. You see the
Yeah.
table where they're all
Timestamp.
doing whatever. So I wouldn't assume they don't have it, but it would have been logical when you're going to spend 4 days on the bar to maybe establish that the person that you said was blotto and ran him over, and this is where
Right.
she got wasted, that you might say, look, people, here's some evidence of her getting wasted. Haven't done it.
Excellent points, because I feel the same way. Not about reference to the jury, but I feel like I can relate to that because that's my experience online, where so many of these trolls have said that Karen was wasted. She had a drink in her hand. Today we found out there was a White Claw today that Nicole Albert didn't want to admit to. I mean, it was pretty obvious she had a drink in her hand as she was leaving the bar. So none of the trolls ever brought that up. It's
One for the
so
road.
strange how when
It
we
is
find out the real truth.
amazing how every social event in the Albert family, and I'm talking three or two generations of it, the central component of everything they do socially is drinking. Everything.
Yep.
I mean, think about it. 50 plus years old having a after last call party at your house. I mean, that's something I didn't do after age 25. I mean, that was the limit on that shit. You don't do that.
Everyone is their own person, but I didn't know that 50-something-year-old women go sit on a bar stool for 4.5 hours, I think the testimony was, walk out with the glass, and then, as you said, go home and here
Have
we
more.
go.
It wasn't
Now,
enough. It was 4.5 hours at the bar. I'm there for an hour and I'm like, get me the hell out of here. That's stuff I did when I was 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
Like that, when you're single looking for girls and social life, that's when you're that age. It's like, are you kidding me? It's alcohol. Someone asked me, what's the motive for this? I think it's alcohol and ego. You mix the two and that's all you need for a lot,
Well,
Makes perfect sense, Mike.
It's interesting. The prosecution, probably the one good thing they're doing, the problem is it's a good thing for the defense, is that, the defense has to have some explanation or theory as to why these people would do such a horrible thing to, by all accounts, a decent man and police officer. And the other thing is it was quick, right? I mean, he went there and was probably on his way to dead in a matter of minutes. So, you have to have all this understanding of why would this be? And clearly alcohol is part of this, but they also, we don't have to be politically correct here. They look like a bunch of meatheads. They do.
Exactly.
It is what it is.
They come off on it.
They look classless. They look like they're big drinkers. They're loud. They're obnoxious.
They think they're funny. They think they're
arrogant.
Yeah.
They say, I don't want to use the word bullying because that's not the right word, but there's this weird attempt to needle O'Keefe. That's just weird to me.
you know what it is too? I look at Karen and John. Look at them. They don't look like they belong in that group of people.
Not at all.
Like
Great.
they
Well
look.
said. Well
John
said.
John reminds me of my girlfriend's son. He stands out. He's you know what I mean? Like all the girls like him, all the dudes like him. Everybody likes him. He's a nice, funny, nice guy, and he's tall, handsome. He's got smart. He stood up for his, the kids that he took in. And Karen, look at her. I mean, I think there's a lot of jealousy going on there in that little.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I think there is, but something else that jumped out about Albert, because again, look, we all know on direct examination, the testimony can often be canned, contrived, and talking about what a wonderful person I am. He went out of his way to say that I went to a fallen police officer's funeral. I went all the way down to New York and da-da-da-da-da. And, John O'Keefe and he were in the same department, dead on his lawn, doesn't appear to have a particular amount of concern. But then, and I assume this will come out on cross, but what I'm told is that he didn't go to the funeral.
Well, I heard he did go to the wake, not the funeral, but the wake.
Okay. Well, that's better than nothing. But one would think, I mean, it is your own department, somebody personally, and I'm going to add a really one more like really small minor detail is dead on your front lawn.
Exactly. A
After
major
you
detail.
your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might show a little, you know, concern.
Compassion. I mean,
That's right.
it's also like the liability of it. Like, I don't, even if you think Karen did it, which I don't, obviously, these people are not innocent in this. They had an after hours party after the bars closed, like, and the body ended up on their front lawn. If they had been more responsible and said, you know what, last call, it's time to go to bed, this would have never happened. So I mean, even if you think Karen's guilty, they still have some responsibility, in my opinion, and they should have definitely come out. They should have definitely come out.
It will, but I think anytime anybody tries to tell you that these people are squeaky clean, and innocent and not involved, again, I'm not going to sit here and accuse them of murder. I don't know what happened, but I'll tell the one point that you could, you know, tell these lunatics or having a normal conversation just about analyzing evidence and the way people behave, and I'm sure they're going to do this in their summation, but you know, you ask a rhetorical question. Does a person with clean hands who's innocent in all this, after we've just been told that McCabe is running around like a lunatic, distraught, even though we know she wasn't, they're freaking out, everyone's so sad and upset. So naturally, under all the stress of that, you know, burn your phone. Like, who does that?
Yeah, that's
Like,
going to be.
There's never a good explanation for that, no matter what. Or, you know, when Brian Albert says it's a butt dial, well, how about this call? Well, that too. How about this one? And then the question is, well, let me ask you this. You were sleeping, right? At 2, whatever. Was the phone, where was the phone? Was it in your, you know,
In bed with you? Yeah.
No, seriously. I mean, in order to butt dial, somebody still needs to touch it, even if it's accidentally. Do you just leave it in bed? And the other thing is this. If you butt dial, what happens when you butt dial? You don't know you dialed. It goes for longer than 8 and 9 and 10 seconds. It could go for like 2 or 3 minutes until you hit someone's voicemail and leave an empty voicemail. And if you do it again, it could be the same thing. But, you know,
Anyone that's been the recipient of a butt dial call before knows this.
Yeah,
yes.
you hear. Sometimes you hear talking for a minute.
Yeah, you say, "Oh my God!" I hear my mother on the phone, like just telling me what she's doing at her house.
When she's watching TV, you can hear the TV show they're watching. Yeah.
Oh, she watched this the other night. She saw my comment, the joke I made. My mother will be proud, and whoever said whatever they said the other night, you made my mother proud. So thank you. But no, with these butt dials, though, it makes no sense, and that's just not. That's funny. House long to butt dial. But these are all the kinds of things that he's going to have to explain on top of everything else. You know, they were also, what did he even say about the house today? Oh, this was in the works for months.
Right.
And then,
the house. Yeah.
Then we sold it in April of 23. That's a long time to, you know, we were in a rush to sell it. And I think I don't know if it was the wife or Brian Albert, which one was talking about, you know, the finances and it was just time or whatnot, then why redo the basement in a hot market? I mean, I can understand, you know, we have to spruce up the house and do whatever, but why the basement? How about some yard work in the front?
Yeah. Usually adding a second bathroom or third bathroom, that would be more beneficial, or yard work, like you said. Those are the things that
kitchens and yard are
exactly. Curb appeal. They call that curb appeal on the yard stuff. Definitely. I've had a lot of customers that have sold their homes, and I see what they do. It's usually the yard and a little paint, you know, and move shit out. Shit out, make it look less cluttered. And then if you can, add an extra bathroom.
But think of the logic, though. I mean, again, not to get into real estate.
Yeah, bathroom. Yeah, no, not a deal.
You're in a post-COVID market, and that's a real thing. Everybody wanted to move to the suburbs and buy homes. You know what? There's bidding wars all over the place for nice houses and nice towns. The last thing you're going to do is say, well, I'm in a bidding war. I'm going to get a lot of money, so let me sink 30, 40 grand into a basement. These people aren't going to care. They're going to do it themselves when they buy the house.
Exactly.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
Another thing that happened today that we briefly mentioned, but we definitely have to touch more on this, was the Turtle Boy. Aiden Carney getting kicked out of court today. I think in reality, it was great for Aiden, because
Oh,
it put him on national television. Like everybody was talking about this. All the law and, the Law and Order YouTubers, a lot of them don't even know who Aiden is. They've been following this case recently. They're all like, "Who's Turtle Boy? What's going on?" It was just,
if you didn't know any better, you think he would have staged it. It's such good PR.
yeah.
I'm kidding, of course. No, this is great for him. I mean, it's scary in terms of like the power of, corrupt officials or just people with too much power who don't know how to wield it. But this is insane in the middle of the trial. And if you got a chance to actually read the motion, it is beyond disgraceful for what it says in there.
I'm sure Mazza Media wants to talk about this. He's probably got a rant. I have a feeling he's big on Turtle Boy. What do you got?
Oh, absolutely. I was all those angry feelings I had when he got arrested the first time and when he got arrested the second time. And basically, anytime he got booted out of court because someone with an RO out on him showed up, just all came back. Like that oppressed negative feeling just came right over me this afternoon. I went on an absolute rant during my lunch break today, and I put out a nice little post. I was just like, man, are you kidding me right now? Because here's the thing. They have found every step of the way some way to put him in some kind of a restrictive state every single time. So, okay, well, there's not enough room in the court. Okay, so he gets his press credentials. He actually gets it. He announces it this week. Not long after that, they're already scheming against him to try to find some way. And, I'll just say this the Commonwealth, and especially Michael Morrissey and Adam Lally, showcase once again just how despicable they are, right? This time, this all happened in a room full of the media. Christina Rex from CBS, WBZ, Sue O'Connell from NBC were all there to see this right in front of everybody's eyes. And I bet you they could all attest that Turtle Boy was nothing but a calm demeanor, a professional demeanor. He was heckled and harassed by an individual claiming to be a journalist who was harassed Karen Reed and David Yannetti and Alan Jackson for months with outrageous claims and comments. And Turtle Boy found himself being confronted by this man first thing this morning and just ignored him. Turtle Boy went there with a absolute professional demeanor. He was on point today. The way he treated everyone that waited all night to keep his seat by delivering those individuals pizza was amazingly generous and thoughtful of him. And it just shows his great character. And I'm absolutely fed up with watching the Commonwealth in their absolute despicable tactics, the way they've been treating this man. They should be sued to death by him over they owe him millions of dollars and damages as far as I'm concerned for the 60 days in court. As far as I'm concerned, $1 million a day for days served in court, jail sounds good to me because he should have never been in jail. And this whole process that they've done to just conspire against him is absolutely absurd, as we saw today when Attorney Tim Bradel, who thankfully was actually happened to be at the same exact court today, happened to be there, and was basically barraged with this notification motion or whatever it was to have to confront this. So he ended up, this turned into a total side mission basically today, where you had Tim Bradel taking on Auntie Bev. Now for me, I had to, I can only watch it occasionally when I'm able to tune in. So I was a little bit behind on this. And when I skipped over the break period, I'm like, what the hell's Tim Bradel doing in the middle of the Karen Reed trial? Am I seeing things? Do I get the wrong video? Did the video switch to another
Yeah.
video?
How
Is this
about
really
that?
Tim Bradel here?
Yeah.
And Tim Bradel was absolutely outstanding in this courtroom. He was a total boss. He took no crap and just absolutely brought it in that court. He didn't hold back on what he said. He kept it professional. He kept it court regulated, but he got his point across about how frustrated he was. And the fact that he stated that he was upset that it went to the AP, which is Associated Press, was another reason to just express why he was so frustrated with what was going on. And it's just ridiculous that because this list of individuals that were on a previous whatever it was, order or document, whatever it was, that are now like, well, he can't be here while they're there, because they knew that that was one of his motivations for being there. And it was just totally out of control. It was the despicable, petty, and pathetic actions that you'd expect out of Adam Lally, and of course, District Attorney Michael Morrissey, just showing what a dog and pony show Norfolk County absolutely is. And Auntie Bev tried to sprinkle sugar on it. Well, I'll let him keep his seat. It'll be
Yeah.
his seat, blah, 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 blah. That's just trying to play like the good cop. But then ultimately, what she ruled was that he couldn't be there when the real key figures that Turtle Boy wanted to be there for were there. The man has press credentials. He is not a criminal. He was arrested under false pretenses. And I asked this question, how many more times will they violate the First Amendment rights of Turtle Boy, Aiden Carney? How many times are they going to do this? These people, every single one of them, from the Canton Police Department to the McAlberts to the Massachusetts State Police to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, right up to Michael Morrissey, every single one of these people are threatened by him, and they're upset because he's exposing his cover up. But I asked them one question: what the hell is the difference if he's on the media in a media seat or if he's streaming live from home? He's going to get his message to his audience anyways. And I don't want to hear this nonsense that, oh, they're going to be intimidated because Turtle Boy is sitting. Give me a break. When you're on the stand, it's between you and the cross-examiner, cross-examining attorney, and that's that. I don't want to hear this. Turtle Boy did nothing that was out of control. And if you want to talk about someone that did do something violent and did do something out of control, it was Carl Dougal, and that piece of crap. From what I heard from Nick Rocco, I heard this actually happen yesterday. It was what I heard Turtle Boy, Paul, and another woman talking about it. And the woman said it actually happened yesterday because Carl Dougal was there yesterday. He was not seen in there today. And during a break, he had bumped her and pushed himself into her. That is the most classless thing that any man could ever do. And it was absolutely pathetic. He should be charged with assault, and he should be sued for assault and battery. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care how petty it was. That was absolutely classless. It was absolutely intimidation and just absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, I take personal issue with a lot of men trying to tough ass Karen Reed lately, and I'm really tired of it, and I'm really sick of it, and I'm tired of watching it. And anybody that does that really needs to check themselves, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people in this movement that the next time they see some of these individuals, and I don't imagine we're going to see Carl Dougal anytime soon because he's now banned from the court, that some people are going to really take issue with some of these individuals and start really spouting off at the mouth and saying, why don't you leave her alone? Why don't you shut your mouth? Why don't you stop abusing Karen Reed? And why don't you act like a damn man? And I'll leave it there.
Now, I want to say on Carl Dougal, I don't know. We don't know. We're hearing it just from Nick Rocco.
Kelly Reed just said it's on tape. The judge and court officers reviewed the tape last night.
I would love to see that video. I would love to. I didn't think they could even record in court, but maybe they have court cameras to record it on. I would love to see it. What I find suspicious is that Carl hasn't made any statement about it, and his brother is just yawning about it on Twitter. Like, they have a lot to say, but now they've got these accusations at them and it's been silenced. So I think that is the most interesting part that leads me, and I'm not doubting Nick Rocco or Kelly Reed at all. I'm just saying there's no evidence of it yet, but Dougal not saying anything. What now you're going to shut up? Now you're not going to say shit? Like, it's very strange. And I want to say about Turtle Boy, I think it's very interesting watching in the gallery today. It seemed like the media liked Turtle Boy. I was watching them, the body language.
Absolutely.
They don't like Grant. You could tell that the media does not respect Grant. And I also noticed Grant is up to his old games. He got kicked out of the cannabis community for basically trying to start a social equity extortion ring, is what I called it, to be kind. And now it seems like he's trying to play the same games with the press line. You notice that he's trying. It's my line.
It's my line.
I'm in charge. I've got a new extortion ring going on here. You can't get in. I decide who gets in. And then Turtle Boy gets in today and all that shit happens. I don't think the media likes Grant. And I could tell, I felt like they did actually like Aiden today. Did you guys see that? Did you feel it?
Definitely, and especially from Christina Rex from WBZ. She seemed to be kind of small talking with them about, maybe some details of the case, or maybe she might have even been asking him about some things that, to help with their story that he might have known to help fill in some details. So he seemed to be a fan favorite up there. And the only person that seemed to be sitting next to Grant and conversing with him was a woman by the name of
Gretchen
Voss.
Can I say
Yes.
something about this Turtle Boy thing?
Yes.
I can't follow what you just did. I mean, so
Yeah, oh,
let's
yeah.
take a moment and
Few
appreciate.
can. Naz has got his thing.
The fire was coming out of me when I was talking. I just was nuclear. Yeah.
In 25 years of this kind of stuff, that was one of the most classless, grade A scumbag moves I've ever seen by a district attorney's office. And I think it goes a lot deeper than just let's get Turtle Boy out of the courtroom, because I think there's a lot more context to this that makes it a lot more sketchy. And again, is just a grade A scumbag move. The timing of this, okay? We are in the middle of a trial that everyone is watching, okay? It's on TV every day. All of this is going on. Like you said earlier, he's a journalist. They don't like him. What's the difference whether he sits in the courtroom? He's still going to do whatever he's going to do. So I don't know how it's more intimidating one way or the other. But here's the worst part. The real party that they were trying to harm was Karen Reed, not Turtle Boy, because look at what they did. Okay. There was a jury sitting out here considering her, whether she's guilty or not guilty. Adam Lally apparently would rather spend more time writing bullshit motions about journalists than, actually figuring out how to try a murder case better than a first-year law student. Okay. So they put this together, but you have to look at what the contents of the motion are and look what they did with it. Okay. So the first thing is look at the contents of the motion. They name Karen Reed and her attorneys essentially as co-conspirators they accuse them of crimes. Let's call it what it is. They literally accuse them of conspiring with Turtle Boy to, intimidate witnesses. That's criminal conduct if true. Okay, fine. So they file that in a publicly filed motion that they hand to the AP. Why do you think they want to do that? They want the press to see that there's a story here. And if that story gets printed while she's on trial, what if the jurors come across this? This is terrible. It's a lot worse than just going to Turtle Boy. And then the other thing they don't do is tell his lawyer, who happens to be there. And then Lally, who I'm now ready to say is more than a useful idiot. Okay. There's something wrong with this guy. Okay. Because he says statements that are just too conveniently wrong about dumb things. And he says, well, I didn't serve you because, you represent him on a different case. And I didn't know that you were going to represent him on this one. Are you kidding me? That whether that's true or not, any prosecutor that has a shred of dignity and cares just a wee bit about their credibility would call the lawyer and say, listen, you need to show up tomorrow. There's going to be this. Let's get ahead of this. Let's do it before the jury comes out. All of this. No, they wanted to make a spectacle out of this. And the other thing is this prosecutor so gutless that when, the witnesses say I'm scared of them, I'm talking about like Brian Albert and they named Chris Albert, these meathead tough guys. I mean, one of them's killed someone before. The other one has done other things. And these are tough guys. They're not scared of him. None of them are scared of him. They're doing this as just a con game. But the person they're trying to really hurt are Karen and her lawyers who they want to discredit. And that is disgraceful.
I can't believe they sent it to the AP. That just.
But not his lawyer. That is
right.
Underhanded scumbaggery of the highest level.
And they told Grant. They did tell his lawyer, but they told
Grant.
Yesterday.
He was ranting and raving. And that's the other thing.
I bet Gretchen Voss got the heads up too.
Can you imagine watching this and you see this spectacle going on? And then you say, if you only knew that one of these precious 10 seats is being occupied by some freaking weirdo who calls himself a towel, whatever the hell that means. One day he'll have to tell me what that means. With all of his just nonsense, he has no journalistic ethics because he's not a journalist. He's clearly unstable. As you said, he's basically walking around calling it his line, wearing, $1.99 Jameson sunglasses, whatever the hell that
Oh
is.
my God, over his real glasses. That's
With the headphones. I don't know. Look, I don't know what this guy's deal is or what the hell is wrong with him, but the idea that they're okay with that clown sitting in there, but not the other one, tells you it's content based. Okay, which is now you want to get into the law
exactly.
stuff. When you start talking about the First Amendment, and you're kicking out one but not the other. Why is it? It's not witness intimidation. He's just sitting in there.
Exactly.
They don't like what he writes. They don't like what he does. These witnesses aren't scared. They don't want him in there potentially filming or doing whatever outside the courtroom because it hurts them, because they look stupid, and it's just hurting them on many levels. This is disgusting. And honestly, the judge, get a backbone. I mean, for once, just say, I'm not doing this. And like you said, sprinkle sugar on it. Give me a break. Basically, every witness she named is every witness that anybody cares about in this case anyway, right?
Exactly.
I mean, she said Proctor. Proctor's on the list of intimidated witnesses.
Right.
It's unbelievable. He should quit. If you know what, there's a million
me
people
tell you
that would want that job and could handle
this-
being up on a blog.
This place is the Norfolk County. And I have family in Norfolk County. I wish I didn't at this point. This is so pathetic. You have the DA's office basically going to bat for a bunch of witnesses who are not scared, saying, kick out a reporter, which is offensive to the First Amendment on many levels. You have the local police department. You've talked about this before in years past, going to reporters and saying, you can't write that because, they're good guys. Why are all the officials in this county always trying to suppress free speech, except for one reason? Because they write bad things about alleged corruption occurring there. And the more you see it and hear about it, it looks to be the case. And when this finally gets in front of a judge today, no backbone at all. I don't care how sweet the tone was. You should, as a judge, everybody knows courtrooms are meant to be open. Convictions have been reversed. Now, that's not going to happen here because it's still an open courtroom. But she should have been pissed.
Exactly.
And said, tell me why, what is the problem? But no, she just accepts the witnesses are scared, Judge. So without anything further, and his lawyer was right. The First Amendment doesn't protect the witnesses. Okay. The First Amendment protects the journalist. Now, of course, if there's crimes going on or intimidation going on, it crosses over. But just because he's been probably falsely accused by somebody who has a history of fabricating incidents to gain an advantage in her life in the past is not a reason that should be used and exploited to keep him out of a courtroom and then allow the DA to file papers which accuses the defendant and her lawyers of being part of this. That's disgusting.
Yeah, that's a PR move. And I'm so glad that you brought up the fact that it's about the content, because they put the pressure on me like you would not believe in late December, Christmas on, because of what happened with Aiden.
That.
And the pressure, I've never felt pressure like this on any of it. Like, I've been doing activism and journalism for 20 plus years. A lot of people threaten to sue me. I've never felt state repression like this. And as soon as they thought that I was going to maybe flip their way, all of a sudden they got real, like as soon as they thought that Mike's shutting it down, he's not going to do his show anymore like that, then they were like, okay, well, we'll take it easy on this guy. That's the message that they were sending. Once they knew I had a lawyer, and I told them to basically F off, and then it started right back up. Like, it was about my content. They know they don't want even a little show like this. Never mind Aiden, who's 5, 6, 7 times bigger than us, than the Young Jerks. So even little shows like this, they are pressuring people, even people who have much less following than the Young Jerks. Just people posting on Twitter and X or sending an email they don't like. They show up at their houses. Like, this is stuff I've never seen. It's like I don't want to like
I was a featured segment on one of those shows very recently, and they were talking about Mazzamedia said this, he said that, blah blah blah. Could we report this to the it's just like, oh, for goodness sakes. I mean, oh.
That's all they do.
The problem is they're career bureaucrats. They have too much power. They're lazy. They're not, you know, they're not good public servants. Okay. They're comfortable, they're lazy, and they just have too much power, and they run the town. I mean, you see this in a lot of places, but if ever there was a time for the judge to, you know, bang the proverbial gavel and say, this is still a courtroom, there's still a constitution, there's still all of this, today was the day. And she didn't. She just laid down.
I'm watching the numbers on YouTube right now. Wow. 2672. I think that might be a record. It's got to be for this show anyways. Live viewers. It's amazing. Looks like 1179 on X, like 20 something on Facebook, and nobody on Twitch. Usually we got that one person, nobody on Twitch tonight, but hey, you know, YouTube, everyone is on YouTube. Unbelievable. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. We're getting a lot of super chats. I can't keep up with them. I know you guys sent a lot of questions in the comments too. I know people get upset if I don't respond to every comment. It's very difficult tonight. A lot of comments coming through. Let's just read some of these. Here's one that we have on the screen. They're praising Turtle Boy. They said, if without Turtle Boy, we wouldn't know anything about this case, which is so true. Another one came in from On the Up and Up. Says, what can be done if the judge truly is corrupt and throws this case? How is that even punished?
Well, I mean, what does that mean by throw the case? I mean, if she can't literally convict Karen Reed, I mean, she's not the jury. She can't read jury instructions that, I mean, again, there's a light shining on the case. And that's why the First Amendment is so important. I mean, that's part of the whole reason, is to shine a light so that things don't happen in the darkness that could be sketchy. But in this particular case, the light is very bright. So I don't think she's corrupt in the sense that people want to believe. Is she the best judge I've ever seen? God, no. I don't think there's any method to the madness, as I said, in what she sustains or overrules. I think she is a little protectionary for the DA, but newsflash, I see that every day. But I thought today she was extraordinarily weak about, you know, the Turtle Boy thing, but she's not going to throw the case. The only way that she could even really impact the outcome would be to make rulings that are absolutely indefensible, and you know, people will see that, they'll talk about it. I don't think she's going to do that. I wouldn't.
You said she's not corrupt. Would you say she still has a significant bias, though?
The way I would say, yeah, but sometimes they don't know it. I mean, yes, I think she clearly is what, you know, we would call, you know, a prosecution judge. Generally, I've seen a hell of a lot worse than her. But a lot of times, some of them are very overt about it. I don't think she thinks that I'm here to screw people. And, you know, she's also a career public defender. I mean, which is the most not screwing people career for anyone, you know, who does this for a living. But, you know, I don't like all of her rulings. I don't like when she says things that appear to be editorializing. But I don't think it's overt corruption or anything like that.
Agree.
I think
agree with you.
People are so
I'd say biased. Yeah, I'd say
Yeah,
biased
it's so
to a
easy
degree.
to say that
Yeah.
that she's corrupt. But you know what's interesting? I love we've been talking about the sighing. She really has cut back on that. You notice that? I haven't heard as much heavy breathing and
I
sighing.
learned how to turn off, you know, turn on and off
Hit the mute. Like
Maybe.
I've stopped
Right.
forgetting to mute myself. Like I've been focusing on it too. Don't mute yourself so much.
Let me say one other thing about, you know, I know this thing is so crazy, and everyone, you know, there are a lot of tinfoil hats, you know, just all around, and everybody thinks everything is corrupt and this. I mean, there's a few things today which to me are like real nothing burgers. I know there was all this discussion about Mama Albert thanking the jury when she left the stand. I watched it. She did. Whatever. I mean, should she have done that? Probably not. Did that look evil or worth complaining about? No. And the other thing is this: you have to remember, a lawyer, their primary concern is their credibility. And of course, her lawyers are really credible. They're really good, and they're winning. And for them to get up and complain about that, I'm just telling
Small
you,
potatoes, right?
they would look like clowns.
Yeah.
The same thing, you know, with Brian Albert looking down. he may be looking down, as you noted earlier, because you know what? He's got a tell. He's got a tick. He's more nervous than he's letting on. I don't believe, I could be wrong, but it's hard for me to believe that he walked up there 7 feet from the judge with everyone looking all around him and has some kind of cheat sheet. What
Yeah,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
I think
what could
I
he
think
be
it's a
doing?
tell. A lot of
What-
people will look down, or when they're
Yeah.
in their heads, they're trying to remember. That's usually, like you said, a tell that they're coming up with their pre-programmed story,
Yes.
usually a lie. So
Which is much harder to do on cross. So if you think that was bad,
That's
you'll
right.
see
yeah,
the veneer will be peeled off him when
That's
the
right.
questions start flying.
That's
You'll
what I'm
see a
expecting as
big
well. Yeah.
change.
we also got a comment from Suzanne who said the Commonwealth's motion served today is dated May 10th. How can they have sent it to the AP 2 days before it was dated?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, that's very disturbing because obviously the way this is supposed to be done, if you're real lawyers, you would serve the parties first, which it appears they didn't, which leads to another more disturbing question. Why did this idiot who calls himself a towel kind of allude to this before today?
That's a good point.
Did they give it to that clown but not serve the one they're kicking out, they knew that's his lawyer and that he would have the same lawyer? If that's the case, that's also very unethical.
Wicked shady. We've talked about this before, but I think it's good to refresh because not everyone's heard it. We always have new listeners. Joey says in New York, I've never dealt with no specifics for objections. Can Mark opine on how he thinks this will affect the record in a possible appeal?
Well, let me start with saying usually we don't have usually in New York house rules before a trial. Sometimes they'll say a judge, I don't want speaking objections. That's what you'd call it. And if I ask, I'll ask you and you tell me. What you don't usually see is this idea where every objection that's going to be fleshed out occurs at the bench. The irony in that is when she's ranting and raving about wasting time, here's a newsflash, Judge, you're wasting the time by calling them up to sidebar 17 times an hour. I mean, that's probably 30 minutes a day right there, just from all of that.
It's unbelievable how many.
The answer is, you would have to have an objection that you believe is wrong on an important issue. Appeals only matter if the issue is important, but if they were overruled on an objection or something was sustained that they felt it shouldn't be, then what they would have to do is say, can we approach and build a record? And they'd have to drag the court reporter up to the bench if they do it that way. And she'd have to allow the party to make a complete record and say, I object, and here's why I think you're wrong. It's not hearsay or this or that. And then she does what she does, but you can't appeal what's not in the record. That's the most important thing. If it's not in the record, it never happened, and an appellate court won't even look at anything that's not in the record. So if they don't like rulings, they need to go back and argue, which I think you've seen Jackson do a few times. That's just for
Challenge
preserving
him.
the record.
Few more comments came in here. Here's one. Mark, what are your thoughts on Bev's ruling when Little was asking NA about the dog? There was also a related comment that said, what was the mess when the Albert wife said she told the prosecution about the dog? They're all asking about the dog. What do you think?
This is important, but I have a question, and this is the key. What is the defense reason for getting access to the dog records? Are they trying to do some kind of veterinarian forensic analysis?
Maybe DNA, maybe teeth. Yeah. Who knows, right?
Again, I don't even know how far fetched any of that would be, or are they just trying to determine if the dog was in fact put down, which would be whatnot. But what's disturbing about it is this. She clearly today, the witness gave some sort of explanation that she's in a place in Vermont. In other words, somebody knows. And I think the question relates to Nicole Albert saying something like, I told the DA where it was, where she was, the dog, something like that. And the defense is pissed because, Lally doesn't turn over whether they have that. Now, is it exculpatory? I don't know. It could be, but of course, the way the way Brady material, that's what we call exculpatory evidence, Brady material. It's just a famous case that lawyers use. It's the defense that gets to decide whether, evidence that you're seeking might have some value, even if it's not per se exculpatory. It could lead to other evidence. For example, if they turned out to find out, what if the records show that the Alberts said in the documents with the dog, we need to get rid of this dog right away because we're in trouble. I mean, I'm making it up, obviously, but the point is, why wouldn't the DA just turn over the dog records if they've been requested? Why is he objecting like he is, saying we're not going to? Yes, it could be Brady. Somebody's saying, we don't know. I mean, the defense gets to decide what value the evidence has for the defense. But the problem is, based on some of the things I've seen, this guy has a history of either non-disclosure of evidence or distorting evidence, misstating evidence. And I think we've seen it even since I've been around. I mean, we saw this ridiculous statement about the McLaughlin photos where he said, I have no idea what he is. Okay, based upon what happened today with Turtle Boy, I guarantee you he knew, okay, and that he watched it when he's sitting at home with nothing to do on a Saturday night, that he's looking through all of that. So that was probably an untrue statement.
They're all watching Turtle Boy.
There's,
They're so full of it.
He made a statement about there was nothing in the federal evidence that, the TUI, what lawyers call TUI evidence, that the feds had to turn over pursuant to a TUI order. There was nothing exculpatory. Well, where the hell do you think the defense found the 3 experts who are going to say the car crash did not happen this way? I would suggest to you that evidence from accident reconstruction people saying she's indicted for murder under a theory that she ran him over and hit him, and we 3 experts believe that that can't be true, is the most obvious exculpatory and quintessential Brady evidence that a lawyer could ever get. That is fall out of your chair.
Gold. It's gold.
Game-ending thing. For him to say,
there's nothing. There's nothing there. There's nothing. No. Yeah, it's unbelievable. He should be sanctioned for it. He should be sanctioned, really.
There's something wrong with what they're doing. And I saw another thing today from a couple of weeks ago where he tried to make some bombshell announcement about, well, we want to introduce video from when Karen Reed got booked, and she made some kind of statement about, are you part of the joke? And something about Colin and Brian Albert did this. And Lally tells the judge that she's basically saying, I saw them do it. It was like the Wendy Murphy theory, right? I saw them bash his head, and the judge said, play the video. And it was 180 degrees different than what he said. Okay. So when I told you, a couple of days ago, did I think he was more just incompetent or worse? I'm starting to lean
worse.
I was going to say I'm starting to lean towards both, but no prosecutor should ever act like this, but certainly a murder case of this,
and this many eyeballs watching too.
You just took the words right out of my mouth.
It's crazy.
These people have got to pack up their bags when this case is over.
Find a new career. Sell some cars.
They're going to be very busy in litigation because they're going to be central components. They're going to get.
I hope so. They put Karen Reed through all that trial. This is
all of them.
Yeah, I can imagine Karen Reed being forced to sit there day after day after day. It's just the time spent. Never mind the money and the emotions and the stress. Just amount of hours that you have to sit there and plan for this. This is just her whole life now. ECV just made a nice donation. They said, should they be asked what they were actually doing back at the house? Dog, 2 minutes for pee, 2 to 3 minutes for pee, looking at photos for a couple minutes, clean up, take out boxes, 10 minutes. What else for the last 90 minutes? More drinking.
Today's the first day where I don't know if criticism is the right word. And of course, these guys are really good lawyers, so they can do it however they want. And they know more than we do what the evidence is and what their strategy is. But I do feel today they were leaving stuff out. And, when you're dealing with witnesses like the Alberts in the house, it's pure fishing. You have no proof what they're doing. You're not going to literally impeach them with proof to the contrary. You're just trying to get them to say things that don't make sense. They're going to be inconsistent with each other, and you can gain advantage through that. And I don't feel that they did a lot of that for some reason. I think they might do it more with Brian. You did get some of it. You did get some interesting developments today that they said that Brian Albert and Brian Higgins did disappear for a little bit. I think some of the other stuff that you got that was weird, if I understand the timeline through all these Alberts, it sounds like Colin Albert got there because he was going to go hang out for the birthday, and then was like asking for a ride at the same time or something like that, which makes no sense to me. But I would definitely, what were you doing? How long was the dog out? Absolutely. Why not?
Now, some of this stuff, I wonder, because there's so many sidebars. Do you think that the reason why some of it seems like this happens a lot, where they're getting somewhere and then Bev calls a sidebar and next thing you know, it's next witness. Do you think that Bev is shutting it down? Like, could that be one of the reasons why they didn't go as far today?
I don't think so. I mean, look, if you did try to impeach Julie Albert, for example, with the text message, and she says you can't do that, that's actually a proper ruling. But my point was, there is reference in the text message that says Julie says. So as a cross-examiner, you have a good faith basis to believe that Julie did that. So you ask her and let her say yes, no, or I don't remember. You plant the seed for the next one. So, I don't think that would be one of them. You could certainly ask her if she told the cops this, and if she says no, okay, that's it. I mean, I don't know how she could shut down that. It seemed like she was certainly giving what's her name, Little, the third lawyer who did
Elizabeth
Rise a
Little.
little. Yep.
a little bit of a hard time with some of the records, the phone records and whatnot, that she was kind of busting her chops a little bit about that. And that, I'm sure, might, to what you were saying, could be at the sidebars saying, we're not using these, they're not whatever. But I mean, you can use them to ask questions and ultimately use it in the way that she did. So, I mean, I think those points got out anyway.
Here's a good comment to question. Any tea on how the jury has been responding to the testimony? I will say that we had Rita on a few nights ago. She said they look really good. They're taking notes. She feels confident. They seem like normal people, is what she said. Turtle Boy made a few comments today too. He said he felt like they were respectable people, very serious about it. But I haven't heard too much. I don't know if you guys have heard too much about the jury. I mean, we don't know. We're like a lot of people. If we're not there, we can't see it either. So
Can't see them, no clue. No, couldn't tell you. I don't know anything about it.
me neither. What do you think, Maz? Have you heard anything on that?
Yeah, I heard through Nick Rocco that they have been responding positively. They've been sitting forward in their seats when the defense is talking. They've been kind of flabbergasted, bored, tired of Lally's discussions. Everything he's saying in court, just constantly just boring people to death, essentially. So that's exactly what I've heard through
Yeah, I mean,
through Nick, who is an extremely reliable source. Yeah.
Can you imagine, they tell you you're going to sit on this big trial. Okay, well, that's interesting. But then they tell you you're going to potentially miss 4 to 5 weeks of work, time away from your family. All right, fine. This is an important civic duty, all of that. And then they haul you into court. And on the first day, you have to listen to, no pulse Lally for 40 minutes, give an opening statement like that. And then you hear Yannetti give this riveting frame up with evidence. You're like, okay, of course you're going to be human beings. You're going to follow that guy. He's interesting. And then when that's all done, you go back to Lally, who starts calling 6 witnesses at a time for the same thing, asking the exact same questions about the weather, about Sully's kid, about who left the bar at what time, and can you identify, because it's important that all 7 people identify the same 7 people in the bar again, and that she had this. It's just awful. And I can't imagine that the jurors would be overly interested in hearing about nothing, as opposed to when the defense attorneys get up and they're asking important questions, they're getting interesting answers, and they're just, on a side note, they're just more charismatic. They're more polished. They're more professional. They just seem like more interesting, and human nature is to talk to interesting or listen to interesting people than some droning no pulse who is just boring you to death. I mean, that's just not just trial lawyers. I think that's life.
That's it. And they're more attractive too, physically. Like if just by looks, looking at them, like, they're not slunched over. They're
No, they
just
look professional. They don't, they're communicating with their client. They're relaxed. They're doing and from a lawyer to lawyer, compliment. They're good lawyers and they're handling a really stressful case, and they're really doing it well. And you're right. The prosecutor he has terrible body language. I mean, he just looks uncomfortable.
tone. I love that what you say, pulseless. He's got no pulse. Checking for a pulse.
He
I
looks
mean, that's what it seems like.
uncomfortable.
He's like walking dead.
He doesn't modulate. He has one tone, and it never changes, which is, there are times in a trial, if you want a jury to pay attention, if you change
Raise
your
it.
tone, change your pace, make a point of it. There's ways of playing the game. Some of it is performance theater, and
Absolutely.
he's just not. And I still to this day find it hard to believe that that's the best they have.
I feel like I would have a very difficult time as an attorney like that. And I feel like I would do a much better job than Adam Lally. It's just like unbelievable. It's like,
There's
dude,
only-
pick
there's
the
only
wrong
one
profession.
There's only one other possibility, and I know I don't want to get into the whole theory about craziness. The only reason that someone who is not one of their best would be handling a case like this is because someone who's one of their best
Doesn't
actually
want it.
has a conscience and says, this is
No
wrong.
way.
And you did no chance. You're putting my name. I'm not going to embarrass myself, embarrass my job, violate, what an attorney is supposed to do. And, so you hand it down to the useful idiot who just says, okay, and does it. Now, maybe he believes it. I think he probably does, but he's not up to this. And I don't know why everyone wouldn't agree with that. I mean,
Now
I know,
look, oh, sorry.
no, I just saying,
yeah.
people, he's doing a great job. And
Yeah,
I
he's
just feel like,
terrible. That's
what am I
that's
watching
it. We got another question that came in about the coffee. I've never heard about this. And I don't know if any of us know about it. It says, what about the coffee and bagels they had ready for the jurors during Bradel's hearing? Super suspicious. You hear about this at all?
No, it's the first I've heard about it just at this very moment. Yeah.
Don't know.
They're jurors on a long case, and she knew I had to hear another case, and you're going to be sitting here doing nothing in the morning for an hour. So the court bought them coffee and donuts. I say, you know what? Great. I mean, I don't know why that's a thing.
I don't think it's a problem either.
That's not a thing.
They need food.
They're jurors. They're going to be miserable. Now they have to sit there. They could have potentially lost half a morning. I actually think that's just being a decent.
Yeah, it might actually help them pay attention. If I get coffee and food, all of a sudden I'm like in a better mood, and I'm like, all right, let's go. We can listen to this. That's the way I would feel on the jury.
It's tough to be a juror. I think it's just being a nice, it's nice.
Here's a question from Suzanne. Rule 57 in Mass prohibits Superior Court judges from implementing stay-away orders. How can Bev outright violate this? This was decided by Krupp 1222.
I think that argument was made today and was simply ignored. He made that argument that this procedurally was taken care of. And I think what she said was, well, you may be right. I need to think about it. But in the meantime, we're going to exclude him. But as Mazza said, we'll sprinkle some sugar on it by, we'll save your seat for when Mr. Irrelevant testifies. So.
She also said that you can appeal it, which Turtle Boy right away and his attorney said that they are appealing it. So, so we'll see what happens there. I think they might get some play there. We'll see.
Have to. Any journalist who gets screwed this way needs to fight for every journalist. This is and here you want to know who's a real journalist and who's not. I guarantee you that every journalist in that courtroom are covering this case, whether they find Turtle Boy odious or not, would back him up 1,000%, except for one towel. Okay,
correct.
Who would basically this idiot, okay, was mocking what's his name? Randazza, the First Amendment lawyer.
Mark Randazza, yeah.
Trying to get rid of the buffer zone so all people could have First Amendment rights and free speech. and this so-called journalist idiot was mocking him for losing.
Yeah.
He calls himself a journalist. I mean,
What a
it's
clown.
Only to get roughed up, pretty much, claim that he was being roughed up by the police. The state
Yeah,
police told
then
him
he got
basically to
that.
stop
Yeah,
agitating.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
the karma. That's the karma. Like what he actually was, supporting, ended up coming and biting him in the ass for the state police. Took him and pushed him aside.
I don't want to
Love that. That was like the best moment ever.
I promise not to turn this into like another one of those shows.
Yeah,
we did.
Wendy.
Well,
Wendy.
I have to ask a question.
Oh, that's okay. We always have time for this, Mark. Go
This-
right ahead.
I just need to know, because every time he gets into it with these people, and there's this picture of him gnawing on his hand.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
What the hell is that? Is that real? I mean,
Yeah,
is he
that is
doing
real.
that
I
sincerely?
think it's.
Yeah,
Like I
there's
said,
video of it, too.
I think it's drugs. Honestly, I don't know, but it's so funny. I wish the state
salt.
police had roughed him up more. Like, boys, don't like Trump says, don't be nice. I wish they had. I don't know. There's something
The
wrong.
cops
with that
came
guy.
right for him. They show him like him backing away from him, and he's like, "Stop agitating! Stop agitating!" And immediately Grant goes right into, "Oh my God, I was accosted by the state police! Oh my goodness!"
Well, I have a great lawyer he can call that can help him sue. It's called
There we go.
Mom. It's called
Yeah.
Mom.
Mom, you think Mark Randazzo would help him?
He probably would.
I don't know.
If
Maybe.
you're a
Maybe.
true
Mark's a
First
good guy,
Amendment
but Mark seems pissed. He even signed up for our membership here when we defended him that show. So who knows? I think I agree. I think Mark would almost represent anyone on free speech, but if there's anyone he wouldn't, it'd probably be Grant.
These
That one-
ambush things that he's doing after court are really so classless. I mean, this guy is just a menace. He was taking pictures the other day of them after court. Why do I watch this? It's like I feel like I need the comic relief, and I'm like, don't look. I have to look.
Right.
And he's filming. I don't know. They're like playing with a kid or something, exchanging flowers or something yesterday, and they're telling him, don't film the kid. Don't put the kid online. He's like, I'm not filming the kid, and then there's the kid online. It's just.
Jeez.
It's ridiculous.
Anyway, all right. I just the hand gnawing. It was weird.
We have a lot of comments. I'm trying to keep up with them. Free Karen Reed 2024 says, a bit off topic, but NA, oh my God, she was heavily medicated. And did she recently get dentures? I don't care about her dentures. I barely survived her testimony. The clicking denture sound, the dry mouth, and her Valium voice was painful.
Who are we talking about?
I think they're talking about Albert's, one of the Albert women.
Probably Julie Albert.
Yeah. I don't know.
She was the one that was chewing gum, and I actually suggested that maybe she's trying to keep her dentures in place.
Yeah. I don't like to make fun of people's teeth.
No, not at all. But that was something I tried to theorize, because if she wasn't allowed to have gum, that's the only thing I could logically think of. So it's like a nervous twitch that she was doing.
Yep. Here's another one from Dag Nabbit. He says, in gang murder trials, witnesses have always felt scared and uncomfortable by friends, family of defendants. They don't get special protection from the DA and judge. Why do Alberts get that special treatment?
Sometimes they do. I mean, if there are a judge can have hearing and determine if there, is a credible basis to believe that a defendant is involved in any kind of witness intimidation, where they can, in lieu of testifying, use their grand jury testimony, which is an extreme remedy because there's no cross-examination. They can block off the courtroom again if there's a finding. It's rare, but I mean, the point made is the correct one. It's a rarity. And the idea that just because, I guess this is the most important thing, to go back to the Turtle Boy thing. What Lally was bringing up is old news. Okay. He was charged in a bullshit case a year ago. Nothing's changed. There's no ongoing threat. There's no new allegation.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing new happening.
And he
Nothing
got
new
a press pass.
Yeah.
In spite of that. So what she did today, kicking him out, was just wrong. And she didn't make any inquiry into, well, what is something new? Any judge should have said, what is the basis?
Yeah. Is there any new threat? And I think witness intimidation too, like all this stuff, it should be about the violence. Like, it shouldn't be, you wrote something about me I don't like. I mean, that's just, or said something on a show. I mean, that's lot of what they try to charge her with was his little diatribes on his show, which is
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yep.
Another question: can the defense call some of the witnesses back for their witness list?
If they have a reason, I mean, you can't call them just for to rehash what's been hashed. You can recall them for a different point, but it changes the tactics. I mean, when they're examining them now, they're cross-examining them, which means you can lead them. You can, be aggressive, or not literally aggressive, but it's a much easier way to do it. If they call them as a defense witness, it's a direct examination. You have to conduct direct, and, you can do it without leading. And one of the ways to do that is the Lally way. What, if anything? Who, if anyone? All of that nonsense. But what you can't do is cross-examine them. You can't just start peppering them with questions. So I don't know at this point that they would do that with any of these witnesses. We talked about it in the past. They're not going to call McLaughlin back. They got her. At this point, they're not calling Julie Albert back, even though I think there was more meat on the bone. They'll get it through, the Proctor, those types, and Caitlin for Katie and all that. And I also think that the defense, they have the momentum. They're moving quickly. They're establishing things. I think the last thing they want to do is look like they're going backwards and bog down and slow it down. The quicker this goes, the better for them.
And they're winning every inning, every inning that's on, they're
Exactly.
winning every single one of them, no matter what
Every
witness has
round.
been called, they've got the better of them. And that includes the one witness or two that they didn't have any questions for, because why bother?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
It's been
But
like
also,
10-8 every round.
when
Yep.
you're ahead, you don't take risk. And
Right.
if you recall these witnesses, there's always the chance that they could try to correct something, that you already have on the record. And this is that whole Katie thing. Everyone was asking, well, why wouldn't you shove those pictures in her face? It's a simple reason. She is adamant that they're acquaintances. I mean, that's what she went with. So,
Yeah. You know what I love too is
done.
that they Lally and I think it was not Lally, Jackson and Yannetti. Maybe it was Yannetti. I'm not sure if both of them or one of them, but they kept bringing up that word acquaintances.
Yes,
Like, I think
Yeah.
it's driving
Yannetti.
it home to the
It
jurors.
was Yannetti, yeah.
It's
don't miss
perfect.
a chance. Yeah, exactly.
Yannetti during his cross-examination of Julie Albert. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
guys don't put arms around each other when you're at the beach. You don't, he's basically
You an
referencing the
acquaintance?
Katie pictures. Yeah.
Like he's mocking. I loved it. It
Little
was so
things
good.
like that, again, they're
Objection.
playing chess
Objection.
and the DA's playing checkers. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's the reality.
Do you think that Judge Antibev's or Judge Cannoni sustains way too much about some of the most, like, there's some things that happen that are like, okay, I can guess maybe there's some relevance to sustain an objection from Lally occasionally, but some of the things that she sustains are so like borderline absurd, where basically, there's a line of questioning coming from the defense that are standard questions that are relevant ultimately. And he's just out there just throwing out objections like he's passing out Walmart stickers.
Yeah, no, again, I don't think her rulings on evidentiary questions and answers have been great. And the worst part, I don't mean to be repetitive, but the worst part is there's no discernible understanding of logical reasoning to it. To me, it just feels like a vibe at the moment that she's allowing or not allowing. And and a lot of it seems to be related on probing about these police relationships.
Absolutely. We had
Yeah.
another comment that came in about O'Keefe's brother glaring at Karen Reed, saying that's the real intimidation. How is that allowed? I just want to say that I don't think he should be kicked out. I think that he should be warned. I think he should say, someone should say to him, like the Judge Bav, maybe take him aside and say, hey, dude, cut it out. But
So
what do you guys think?
this is a problem.
I agree with you.
I agree with you. You are not kicking out the brother of someone who was left like a pile of garbage on someone's. No way. But having said that, and again, this goes back to, victims' families, you have to give them a wide berth. This guy clearly believes that she's guilty. If there's nothing else, that. On the other hand, the way this courtroom is configured, his glaring and leaning in and smirking is really inappropriate.
That's
and
correct.
Something gently has to be done. And the way that it should be done would be for the defense attorneys outside of the presence of the jury, obviously, with the DA, who's entitled to be there, raise this, and I would do this on the record without the jury, and say, we understand that he da 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 da, but given the configuration, he's doing this. And then the remedy, the first remedy should be the judge giving a general, not singling him out, a general to the
Warning.
audience, telling everyone,
Yeah.
I know this is a tough configuration in this, and I know there's a lot of emotion and whatever, but we can't have jurors being influenced or worried or whatever about reactions from people in the peanut gallery. And hopefully that would do it. And if it doesn't, then you have a problem. I mean, at some point it has to be specifically addressed, but it's a concern because it's obvious that he is glaring, smirking. And when he thinks that the DA is scoring a point, he's leaning in.
Yeah, right.
Matter.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question then. So let's say that, let's fast forward a couple of weeks here, and I'm not making any accusations against him. I'm just making a general statement based on what Carl Dougal did, allegedly. Let's say, for example, the verdict is delivered. Karen Reed's not guilty. You have people close quarters there that, I'm not saying anybody would act out violently against her, but there could be a serious confrontation that involves involvement. When verdicts are delivered, in your experiences, in more hostile, murder-based trials, is there ever at least in maybe New York, or maybe if you have experiences in Massachusetts as well, is there more police presence or court officers that are present than a normal general trial session, like a typical day?
100% of the time. And especially, I mean, look, obviously Karen Reed doesn't look like the kind of person that you would worry about, because the first thing they're worried about is the defendant. Okay. And she's not that kind of person. But in theory, if she were to be convicted, which not going to happen, but you don't know that literally, she could be jailed right away. She's no longer presumed innocent. She's looking at double-digit years that nobody wants to even think about. Again, this is all in the abstract. So you'll see that a lot of court officers will come and very nonchalantly be very close to a defendant. But also, you can see it where it's a hot case and there's like two warring sides, if you will, that they will definitely put court officers between. I mean, I had one crazy case when I was a prosecutor, like really bad kidnapping, like movie style kidnapping, where they, grabbed this guy, held him for ransom, tied him up, hog-tied in a hole for like 48 hours, beat the shit out of him, and crazy stuff I want to tell you about. But when that verdict was coming in, they had 30 court officers up and down the row because they were concerned, what could happen. So yeah, and this courtroom is a disaster for that.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
And there's going to be a reaction. The judge is going to say no one should react and whatever. But I mean, the scary thing is that these people, at least what it looks like from TV, I don't know how to gauge the real distance, but it looks like where the O'Keefes are sitting is like a foot or two.
So I'll say this. I saw a photo of Turtle Boy that he posted today where he's in that courtroom. And I'll tell you this, that courtroom on camera actually looks bigger to me than the picture that Turtle Boy showed.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it literally looks like it's about 30% smaller than what I've been seeing on camera. And that may be because that camera's right into the wall so close that it makes it look a little bit maybe wider, but it looks like it's so close. It's so tight.
It's unfortunate, but I mean, I don't think everybody thought that incredibly crazy murder cases with national, if not worldwide interest, were going to necessarily be tried in an old courthouse in Dedham, Massachusetts. It's just not what you would think. And they're stuck in the building they're in, which is unfortunate because this thing needs as large a courtroom as they get.
Yeah, for sure. And we all thought, a lot of us in recent history, that there were many people on the Karen they were trying to get into a lot of the hearings and were cut off because there weren't enough seats. And many thought that courtroom was too small. And now we're seeing a courtroom that's probably a third of the size, perhaps.
Very small.
The other
Very
one.
small.
I mean, that's like that's going to be like one of the original courtrooms in that building.
Probably a traffic court or something.
Yeah.
Here's another comment. Thoughts on every picture Lally has shown of the house are all of a certain angle and look like they're on an iPhone.
All I can tell you again, to just go back to this, it's amateur hour. My God, you have a district attorney's office, you employ investigators, go out there with a real digital camera, whether it's a real iPhone or something different, and take some freaking pictures that have use and value.
Mhm.
They don't do it. The cop pictures, as you know, were even more pathetic, and pathetic.
It really is.
My thoughts on Lally showing these pictures are ridiculous.
Another comment. Mr. Bederow, do you or the panel think that Proctor will plead the fifth? We've talked about this. Will he even be called from the state? I think it's obvious he is going to be. He's on the list, so it seems like he will be. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, there's a real strong reason, if you're his lawyer, to, again, your only focus is him. It's not the case. Now, if he does plead the fifth, they're cooked. They're done. I mean, practically, not literally, but they can't win if that happens. If they don't call him, they can't win either, because the defense is going to call him and say, how do you like that? This guy had to be called by us because they're, hiding whatever. This guy has so many problems, and God knows what's going on with the feds. I don't know. This video issue that we talked about earlier, I mean, it's really weird to me that we haven't seen video of the bar that he described in detail. I mean, real detail. To me, it's more likely that he won't than I thought a few days ago, but I don't know that it means he's not going to.
I'm glad you brought up the bar, because CF McCarthy's was the bar they were at before the waterfall.
Right.
They got the waterfall bartender, the waterfall video. They're saying that she had more drinks at CF McCarthy's than the waterfall. Why didn't they start there? What is there going to be a wait staff or bartender from there? Is there already camera footage from there? Like, that's weird, isn't it?
If I conflated the bars where they claim, and maybe I did, where they claim they saw her go up and down, then then the question is, well, why didn't you just?
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
I mean, you could do without Proctor, even if Proctor is the one who watched the video. You call somebody from CF McCarthy's, you introduce the video as a legitimate, fair and accurate, blah, blah, blah. You already had witnesses identify her as where she was in the bar. And once the jury has a real strong image, okay, watch that one, I see her.
Yeah.
Then direct, the attention. Is that the same person going up? Doesn't
it make you feel like that it's all false if they haven't even presented that? I mean, that seems like the first thing that they would do is go with the juiciest shit. If
you would think so, although, I mean, they have so much longer to go. I wouldn't assume they're not going to do it, but they're just, as we said earlier, they're doing it all out of order. It's all disjointed. I mean, I can't even remember what their evidence is at this point because it's just so forgetful.
Another good comment. I like this one, Kristen. This is one. I like the questions when we haven't discussed or thought about this, and this is one of them. Kristen said, in a future show, would you consider a deep dive into mass lesser included charges? This bit is equally concerning since jury split the baby, or split the verdict, I guess. Yeah.
Not here. There's no way. I shouldn't say no way. I'm not a juror, but the likelihood here of a split baby is virtually nil, because on the one hand, you have the DA adamant this was a car accident, and the defense is it never happened. It literally never happened. And if you don't believe the defense, other than the intoxication issue, which I guess could make a lesser offense, so maybe I'm speaking a little out of hand. Yeah, I mean, I guess it could happen on that. But when you have usually all this or all that, that definitely decreases the likelihood of a split verdict, because they're not even close to what they're alleging. I mean, it's kind of rare in that sense that they're so far apart from what they're alleging.
Another comment. They said, how did they get past the broken chain of custody? That's the $1 million question. I don't know. What do you think?
Meaning what? the chain of
Well,
custody.
like on the car, for instance, the automobile was not secured, blood evidence, like all of that, the
Oh, well,
scene
no,
of the crime.
I think the DNA evidence, if they try to offer it on the car, is already unreliable based on all the nonsense we saw with the crime scene preservation. As far as the taillight that we've talked about, I think they're, for the most part, screwed on that because of the 5 a.m. video and everything else. And of course, their unimpressive 8 a.m. video that they thought would be impressive, but it's really not. And then, of course, you have the Canton lieutenant or whatever he was who said, "Oh, yeah, we broke the glass in." And then by the time you get to the crime scene visit, the whole light is gone, like the whole thing. So, yeah, I think the answer is they don't get past the broken chain of custody. All of the evidence that they want you to find compelling, the shattered glass that's embedded in the car, his DNA, if that's really true, and the shard of glass that's on the yard, I think that's all pretty much discredited or not reliable, and they have the burden of proof. So how are they gonna? It can't be. Well, it could be. Maybe they lose if the jury's thinking of it in speculative terms, because they have to prove her guilt beyond a reasonable doubt to a moral certainty. So any question is going to be resolved in the favor of the defense.
Another question is, do you think Higgins flipped? I mean, we really don't know. All we know is about the feds, the proffer, what, you said. What do you guys have any comment on that one?
All I can tell you is a proffer does not mean cooperate. I mean, a proffer means going in, getting a queen for a day immunity, and presumably sharing information. That's all it means. It certainly means that if he did that, that the odds of Higgins testifying in a manner that is different than what he told the feds is very low, because he'll subject himself to easy federal prosecution if that happened. But if he's cooperating, the DA would know that. And if he's cooperating with the feds, one has to assume that he would be contrary to what the DA wants, and he's on the DA witness list. So I think just by process of logic and step by step, the idea that he literally is cooperating with the feds is as close to zero as you could probably get.
Maz, you got any comment on it?
Yeah, there's been a long time rumor that he flipped, and I would say I'm extremely on the fence about it. I think that there's certainly a chance. I would say that, perhaps maybe he has a little bit of involvement in this, maybe not as much as, I don't know how much or how little involvement he had, but perhaps maybe he doesn't have more than maybe a pinch of involvement, and then that's why he potentially flipped. But that'd probably be on a federal level, of course. But it's tough to tell. It's extremely tough to tell. But I'll tell you, he's been an individual just like Brian Albert has been out of sight, out of mind for a long time. And it will be interesting. I think that when we get to see some cross-examination of Brian, to see if the defense brings up any kind of recent communications with Brian Higgins and saying, have you talked to him recently? Have you talked to him in a while? Maybe there might be some questions that might clue into, because if I hear like, oh, me and him haven't talked in about a year and a half, well,
But
then
I was just gonna say he's on the DA witness list, and they would know if he's against them. And the reality is, if the feds are really doing something here, they would probably let the DA know, you really, now we're being serious, don't want to do this. Now, the only caveat to that is, if he were cooperating, who are the so-called bad guys? And then what if it extends to the DA's office and now you're getting really tricky? Maybe he's just on the witness list and they don't know. I mean, it's true, based on the other witnesses, it's hard to see that Lally's done much preparation with these witnesses. So is it possible that they threw him up there and they're going to find out the hard way? That's really hard for me to believe. But on the other hand, if he's kind of disappeared, it's a little weird.
yeah.
It is weird. We won't
Yeah.
find out, I guess, until he gets before the jury.
Yeah, we'll really find out during the, yeah, like you said, the Higgins cross-examination, but the Albert one might be able to clue us in depending on the questions the defense asks. But then, like you said, the Higgins cross-examination will really tell a story.
Also,
Can't wait.
when you talk about him flipping, I mean, even if that hypothetically were the case, there are various levels of flipping. I mean, there are I killed the guy, there are I helped move him on the lawn, there are oh my God, I saw it happen and said, what the hell are you doing? I can't believe you did that. There are I knew he did it and I should have told anyone. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's criminal responsibility at the highest level, or there could be just you're a scumbag, but you're not a criminal. I mean, it really, you don't know.
Varies. Another good question here. Is it possible the 9 drinks were 9 sips for the same 1 drink? I mean, looking at the way Lally plays this, I would not be surprised. What do you think?
The way the video has come out so far, I think it's very possible. But the way the video is described by Proctor, it's not possible at all because he has her going and getting.
Right. And
But
the
we-
way the witnesses have described her behavior, I mean, they're describing her at the waterfall. So if she had a shitload of drinks at McCarthy's, they would have all noticed. They would have been like, she was wasted. And the bartender at the waterfall said, no more for you. Like, we were giving her water. Like, they would say something like
That's
that.
right.
Like, I was a bartender waiter. I would notice people coming from other bars, and we would often say, nope, you just got shut off at the next place over, didn't you? That's why you're here. Like, we could tell. You could tell when someone had been overserved somewhere else and come to the new place. It's
they
pretty
say
damn
that.
obvious.
Let me add
Yeah.
this. They have waterfall footage. They have security camera footage of all these individuals walking out of the bar. So if they knew Karen Reed was drunk and as drunk as they said she was, then would they have footage of her? They would have had footage of her walking out of that bar stumbling and bumbling. And he never
Exactly.
presented that when he cross-examined the waterfall.
And none of the
lady.
people, the employees, the guests, none of them said she was drunk. None of them.
If she got tanked up at McCarthy's before, but everybody says 20 minutes later she appeared fine,
Yeah.
then it's, you know,
It
I
makes
don't
no
know.
sense.
It doesn't make
I think Melanie might be onto something here. There's another comment which I don't get, but I'm going to read it anyways. Amy, thank you for the contribution. Thank you everyone for making donations tonight. Amy says, if you were dropping someone off at a home, why would you put them that far away from the door when the weather was so bad? I will say it's a small yard. I don't think he was that far from the door. Where he ended up was not, I believe, where she even dropped him off. And there was another car that came in. So she did move her car a little bit. We don't even know where she dropped him off, I don't think. What do you all think on that comment?
I think it doesn't matter because the defense theory is he went in the house. So
Exactly. Right.
I mean, the defense position is like a normal person. She dropped him off, whether it's all the way in the driveway or halfway. But the bottom line is he went in the house. And if he went in the house, I don't know why it would matter. Now, from the other side's perspective, yeah, I think they're going to want to make it as weird as possible that, you know, he got out of the car and she just did whatever she did. But they don't have any witnesses to this. I mean, they have, and by the way, all these, here's the other problem that I think McCabe has. A lot of those like self-serving, where are you? And you did this and you did that. But the bottom line is she deleted a lot of this and other relevant communications. And it calls into question everything that McCabe was doing from the moment John O'Keefe got out of the car until, you know, she got her story straight. And what they're going to destroy her so bad because on top of all of this stuff that she did, the jurors are going to ask themselves, she deleted all these calls. She came in hysterically. They talked to the cops. And by the way, one of these Alberts today didn't do them a favor. She said 45 minutes, right? Long conversation. But only after they huddled up together, only then does McCabe call Julie and say, how do I get in touch with Lank? Because I got something to say. And that's the whole, like, I hit him start of all that stuff. That is so contrived and on its face, given all the other evidence of them burning phones, deleting, doing searches, telling all these inconsistencies about what's going on in the house and when they're coming and going. Why would it take her 3 hours to say, oh, by the way, she told me that, you know, she was worried that she might to hit him.
That is so conniving.
How does it take three long?
How is she going to answer that on the stand? I
I
can't
don't know.
wait to see that cross with
But I know
Jennifer
how I
McCabe.
could answer it because they got their story straight, and Brian Albert is probably, or Higgins or whoever, said, well, here's how it's going to go, and that's
The
what they
author.
did.
Unbelievable. That's going to be something else. The cross on Monday of Brian Albert's going to be great, and just when Jennifer McCabe gets on the stand, it's going to be really good.
She would be the other one on the list of like taking the fifth. I'm not saying she will, but she's wow.
Yeah.
High
She's got
probability.
He's got problems.
Jen just sent $5. She said if Higgins flipped and told who he really is guilty, then those people would be in jail. The feds wouldn't be waiting around to arrest anyone. We don't know that.
Well,
Well, that's
witnesses
Yeah,
can
go ahead.
flip, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's enough. I mean, it's not like Higgins goes in and says, here's what happened, and they say automatically, well, he's credible, so it had to be. You have to corroborate it. Is he credible? And even then, you'd say, are they going to make a swift arrest just based on Higgins trying to save his own skin? I mean, is he shifting blame? Who knows?
Right.
But so, I mean, that could be a big factor in making arrests down the line, but it doesn't literally mean that they do it just because one witness flips.
Now, they could have sealed indictments. They could have indicted people federally and holding it secret just because they don't want to let the cat out of the bag. How does that work? Does that happen a lot?
If they had sealed indictments ready to go, then I think that they would have done it to kill the trial, because the U.S. attorney is not in the business of literally having someone that they perceive to be unlawfully prosecuted sitting in the condition that she's sitting in and theoretically could get convicted. If they had the goods now ready to go, I think they would do it and stop this madness.
Got a lot of good comments tonight. Someone noticed the closeness of the courtroom. It's good because the jurors have a front seat to the lies, which is exactly why the defense wanted this courtroom. Another one says, Karen, some guy with cancer who donates a lot. Thank you so much. Some guy with cancer. I hope you're battling that and winning against it like I did. Karen has MS. There's no way she could drink that much.
Is that a thing? I'm not an expert on that. If that's a thing, that's very interesting. I don't know the answer to that, but that would be very interesting again, as weighed against this video that Proctor claims he saw.
Absolutely. We've got so many comments tonight. Michael says, why would prosecutor put Alberts on the stand? Wouldn't they have to be positive they were not involved due to possibility of self-incrimination?
I'm not sure I understand. What wouldn't they have to? Well, I mean, first of all, they're arrogant. I mean, we know, for example, some of them testified in the federal jury. We know for a fact this Colin Albert kid testified in the federal grand jury because for some reason his lawyer told everyone. I mean, I saw that myself just in trying to learn about the case. And he said, I represented him and he went into the federal grand jury and whatever. So they're going to probably have that transcript. Why would they testify? Because they want her to get convicted and hopefully have this go away. And I mean, they could take the fifth, I suppose. She would be freed. It would probably lead some real prosecutor, not the Norfolk DA, to look into this. Special prosecutor probably would have to be appointed, and they could ultimately, still get in trouble. And then reputationally, I don't know that that's a reason to plead the fifth out of concern about reputation, but I think they're arrogant. I mean, look at Chris Albert. Can't you just tell?
He's so arrogant.
I mean,
Chicken palm.
Did you see why
chatty.
we wanted him on the stand? He's a very arrogant guy.
yeah, I mean, like so far, Brian Albert has not come off.
Yeah, he
Not
came
yet.
up the best because he's
No,
more
he's
polished. He's
polished.
used to this stuff.
Right. And that'll change probably.
And it's his words too. He doesn't say too much. He answers the question, shuts the hell up.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny because I thought because of what he did in the police department that he probably didn't have as much testifying experience as other cops would. That's not a courtroom kind of.
They just grab people and throw them in
Yeah,
jail.
that's kind of a meathead thing where
Yeah,
you
it's a tough job, actually. It's scary. You go
very
after the worst
you,
people.
you need big, physical, strong, tough guys.
Psychos.
Yes. No, I mean, let's call it what it is. And
Yeah.
by the way, don't be surprised if that's part of the cross about in your job of
Yeah.
that you have to get, there are times you have to get physical and
You're right. How about the wife today wanting to deny that he was a
That was
trained fighter or
that
whatever?
was disingenuous. And, she was parsing words about what do you mean by train? And then you see the videos of him in that TV show fighting.
Right.
And he was a boxer in the Marines. And, his wife is going to say, no, that was dumb.
That was really dumb.
That was dumb. That was not on the level of Katie dumb, because that Katie's was ridiculous and is backed up by real pictures, but they're too guarded and they're too.
It brings attention to it.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing you can do is to deny something like that. And is it other Ask Bob says, Mike, you think they could have hit him on the front lawn after Karen left? That would cover Brian Albert saying he never came inside the house. I mean, possibly. We don't know. We have no idea.
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't
That'd
know.
be pretty risky.
Good. Yeah, it's pretty risky, but you never know. I'm trying to get all these comments, man. It's crazy tonight.
I'm trying to see how the DA is going to deal with the missing belt. Because I don't know if, again, I'm not an expert in this kind of thing, but I don't think getting hit at 20 miles an hour in reverse in the snow, it could do a lot of things, cause a lot of damage, I suppose, if it hits you in the wrong place. But what I don't think it's going to do is detach an attached belt.
Yeah. Here's another comment that I like. Melanie says, didn't the other witness jealous say Karen was an outsider? I don't know if I heard that. Did you
feel like
guys hear
I've
that?
heard
Though?
that somewhere, but I don't know if we heard that in court. I don't remember, to tell you the truth.
Mazza, what do you think?
I have no recollection of that. I don't recall. I just I don't remember or recall.
I
don't
feel like
know.
she might have said, maybe she said it in her TV interview. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a good comment. It says Heather Unruh got destroyed by Jackson for telling her son to delete pictures in his phone. That was in the Kevin Spacey case. She was Heather Unruh, used to be a Channel 5 anchor woman.
Right.
Very true. I mean, I think we might see more of that happen with the destroyed phones between Higgins. Monday, Albert
Yeah.
might get questioned on that, right?
Definitely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think for sure.
I want to thank everyone for watching and commenting tonight. Here's another comment from Haley. Said, Mark, would the feds be waiting for people to testify under oath in this case to compare the testimony under oath between the state and federal grand jury, as well as in the case, fishing for obstruction?
Well, I don't think that they would literally wait and try to build an obstruction case, hoping that there's perjury. But I think once the reality is that the trial's going forward, that they're all looking at each other saying, for all intents and purposes, from our standpoint, this helps. I mean, it's more sworn testimony from some of the people that could be in the crosshairs. So I think that it's going to help them, but I don't think that they would slow roll it and allow her to go to trial. And my guess is the reason that they're in trial is that the defense wanted it.
You're right. And the comments coming in the chat said Yannetti on cross, but Julie said yes, that Karen was an outsider. So that clears that up. Thank you so much for the comments. I love our chat because if we get something wrong or we're not sure, you guys clue us all
Instant
in.
fact check.
Yeah, it's instant fact. It's like the group knows. Here's another comment that we've talked kind of about this tonight. Aren't there 3 reconstruction specialists the FBI hired going to testify? Yeah, they're on the witness list, right?
They're on the defense witness list. And of course, why wouldn't you, if you're the defense, call them and establish that many, many times you're hired by prosecutors, meaning you're straight shooters. I mean, what the argument is, the prosecution credits you, including federal ones. And that's kind of a way also to weasel in without telling the jury, but telling them that something federal was happening. Ask each of the 3 of them, have you ever been hired by prosecutors, ever been hired by federal prosecutors, ever been hired by federal prosecutors in Massachusetts? I mean, you could really try to have fun until she says enough. But I mean, if they're not going to testify, then I don't know what the hell we're doing here, because that's probably, it's not the sexiest evidence maybe, but that's probably the single most biggest fact that will guarantee that she's not going to get convicted, more than all this other salacious stuff. When they come in and say this could not have happened, it's over. And that's one of the reasons why I can't believe that the DA is going to proceed unless they have some theory that they can discredit the three of these people, which I assume they can't.
Yeah. This is a great comment that just came in. Good. They're talking about the hospital. Good Samaritan. I think they're part of the Steward group, is in bankruptcy. The staff has complained about not having proper supplies reported in the news. I would question the expiration dates of supplies used for blood, alcohol, draw, and quality checks. Do you think that could come up?
Maybe, but see, to me, I don't understand the whole alcohol thing. I understand it in the sense of the upgrading the charge and this kind of thing. But from the defense standpoint, there's no car accident. There's no hit. So you want to take away this because you don't want to do anything that could hurt her. But the alcohol thing is almost more of a way to just show them that they don't know what they're doing and their witnesses aren't supporting what the evidence is. Would they go so far as to challenge the result? I suppose they could if they thought they had a basis to do so. I don't know if she's going to let in evidence that this hospital is with people who are unqualified. I mean, I guess you'd have to have some basis, a good faith basis beyond they're in bankruptcy, so they must all stink.
They said her alcohol level was also way higher than would have been reasonable for her body weight to drive successfully from the waterfall to 34 Fairview, and 34 Fairview after dropping off John to back to John O'Keefe's house. So it's just, I always argue, and I had
What that even means?
yeah, I had an episode about that I did, and I broke it down where I'm like, she went from point A to point B without a vehicle incident, no crashing into anything, no swerving off the road, dropped off John, went back to his house, no road instances either, no damage to the vehicle other than when she backed into his vehicle when she was leaving to go see him, which was several hours later.
And no video of her driving erratically.
Yeah.
I mean, they got cameras.
I don't know how they can even, that to me sounds beyond their purview to make a statement like that, because do they have some kind of blood alcohol content, like a real number somewhere, somehow?
They drew some blood in from the hours. They recalculated, estimated what she was. Yeah.
But are they saying we don't think anyone could have that much? Or are they saying her BAC would have been this and
yeah, exactly. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
It would have been this
How
based
high
on what it was at this hour when we drew it.
When she was in that Nightline interview, they claimed she had I don't know, I think it was 9 drinks or whatever it was. I think we talked about that earlier, perhaps, but
yeah.
I don't believe it. I mean,
No,
look how
not at
small she is. I couldn't
Yeah,
handle
that's what I
9
mean.
drinks. I don't think that she could.
I'm looking it up right now. I have it written down on one of my slides.
I think is also whoever raised that. That's an interesting point. I don't know if that affects it or not, but if you say that she's, I don't even know how tall is she. I don't even know.
5'6", 5'5",
Okay.
5'5", 5'6", 5'7".
Generally average height. She appears pretty thin, so she's lightweight. All that drinking.
I got it.
She has MS. I mean, how could this be?
Blood alcohol level being between 0.13% and 0.29%.
Well, that's
0.13 and 0.29. That's a lot.
Yeah,
but that's also a big variance.
It's a big variance.
That's a lot more than you usually see. That is a very wide, and I'm sure that they would attack that. I mean, that is not usually I shouldn't say usually because it's not that common that they do it this way, but that's saying you might be moderately over the limit towards just shit-faced,
wasted, falling down, dying. Right.
And that taking that into account, I also have noted here, this is a slide I did about 2 months ago. I did this, and she had driven about 4 miles between the waterfall and 34, and then about 4 miles from 34 Fairview. She drove about 8 miles. Successfully drove 4 miles between 2 destinations. So it was a total of 4 miles she drove.
And she was not 0.29. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Not
that is
all.
absolutely ridiculous. I know from my experience with alcohol. Anyways, we got another comment here from Lissa M, and I think we're almost ready to wrap it up. We've been going over 2 hours here. It goes fast with you guys. You guys are just so fun. Lissa M says, is it possible, since even the FBI couldn't find solid evidence that he was murdered inside the house, only circumstantial evidence, and that's why they haven't stopped the trial?
I don't know. And, look, I don't fully know what they're investigating. I mean, the underlying murder has to be part of it in the sense of it's involved in this. But the crimes that they generally are looking for are going to be corruption related. Now, if people lied about the murder, that's fine. But I don't know that that means that from the FBI perspective, they have to solve the murder. I mean, for example, not that I believe this happened here, but you can frame a guilty person. I mean, that's what most people think Mark Furman did to O.J. Simpson. People think that Furman was dirty, but that O.J. was guilty.
Guilty. Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing that would definitely strike the interest of the FBI initially would be all of these allegations about planted evidence and this and all these coincidences. And you could still do all that and find that happens without ever solving the murder. Which I hate to say, and I feel terrible about this, unless they really turn the screws and just break the wall, if it really happened in the house, they never will solve it unless it just one day
someone flips and someone
Yeah.
just tells the truth.
Yep.
That's the problem here. Thomas, this is the last one we're going to read tonight. Thank you for everyone who's been donating. They keep coming in. It's hard to keep track of them. Thomas says this is a good one. 27-minute call between Proctor and Julie day of Karen's arraignment is the biggest bombshell yet. In his opinion, no person thinks that that's normal. I don't remember. I don't recall. What do you all think on that one?
Nicole Albert was, they read to her. Elizabeth Little said you guys were on a couple of calls together, and Nicole Albert was basically outright, based on the testimony she came, indicating that nothing ever took place of the sort. And Elizabeth Little called her right out on that and said you didn't have this call at this time, this call at that time. That was a very notable moment today.
Refresh my recollection. That call was with Michael Proctor, right?
Well, the question was about Michael Proctor, but I was transitioning into the Nicole Albert call with Jen McCabe. Yep, yep.
But this bombshell call we're talking about was actually between Julie and Michael Proctor.
Yes, and the super chat question, correct?
Yeah, I know. I think that's a very long phone call, and again, she tried to say that her relationship was really with not the other Proctor, the sister, or whatever it was.
Courtney, yeah.
To not remember talking to the lead investigator for a half hour before her arraignment. I think that's pretty hard to believe. I don't know how bombshell it is in substance. It could be, oh my God, I'm glad you got her. And I can't believe, I don't know, but I think she would have been better off kind of eating that one and saying, well, things were happening and I don't know. I guess maybe it's because she can't explain it because maybe it is nefarious. I don't know, but I don't think it was credible for her in this context to not remember that, but to remember, when Colin came home and my husband came upstairs and he didn't brush his teeth and he didn't do this and he didn't do that. And I know that struck me as weighed against the 27-minute phone call the day of the arraignment, given her involvement. I don't think that's credible.
A lot of mysterious phone calls there. 7-second calls with Nicole Albert, and there's no, what are you talking about in 7 seconds? It's
yeah.
So, final thoughts tonight. What are your final thoughts from a week of testimony here?
Go ahead.
Now we'll start with Mazza.
Sure, I'll kick off. So I just want to talk about the Good Samaritan medical question. So I have a snapshot of an article I had clipped some time back. So on January 29th, the defendant, Karen Reed, was transported from the scene to Good Samaritan Medical Center. While there, her blood was drawn pursuant to her medical diagnosis and treatment at that facility. The ethanol results just said, gave a rating. And then Nicholas Roberts, a forensic toxicologist from Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory, performed both a serum conversion and a retrograde, I can't even say this word, I'm just going to skip it, of said result, opining that Mrs. Reed's, it's like that extrapolation, there we go, I got it, of said result, opining that Miss Reed's blood alcohol level at the time on the 29th, so this is when it was taken at 9:08 a.m., was between 0.07 and 0.08%. Now, it should be noted that in Massachusetts, the legal limit is 0.08%. So at 9:08 a.m., they said it was 0.07 to 0.08. From his retrograde extrapolation analysis, he opined that her blood alcohol level around the time period of 12:45 a.m. would have been between 0.13% and 0.29%, which is totally unfounded, because if she was somewhere around that range, how was she driving that successfully? She would have had, they can argue, oh, well, she hit John, that's an incident. Well, there's no proof of that. And furthermore, there's no proof of her crashing into anything else during that time period that she left the waterfall en route to dropping off John at 34 and then dropping him off. Taking herself back to John's rather. So it's it's totally outrageous, these numbers, and I think that they were
Too broad.
fabricated and forged. Yeah,
It's
and it is
just
too broad. You're right. Yeah, that's a big range.
that is a large variance that I think, if that can be explained in a common sense English way without getting gobbledygook science to people, that's just too far and therefore not reliable. And oh, by the way, she didn't hit him anyway.
Exactly.
Right.
So final thoughts, Attorney Bederow, anything you want to bring up that we did discuss, or?
Well, Monday, I'm not going to be able to see Brian Albert, which is a shame. I'm starting my own thing. So I'm hoping to get, some interesting feedback and watch that after. I think it's sad that it's 3 weeks in, but at least it's starting to get somewhat to the point where things could happen. I think Brian Albert will be effectively cross-examined by, a very good cross-examiner, clearly, and a lot of things won't make sense. But I don't think that Albert is going to implode in the way that you're not going to see a Perry Mason moment where he's like, "Yeah, got me."
Yeah.
That could happen with McCabe. I believe that if they do it the right way. I think that that's just more likely to happen. And I think Proctor would be more interesting too. So I think people should manage expectations for Albert. They're going to make a ton of points. They're going to get all these stupid phone calls that he's going to deny, because he's just going to deny, no matter what you come at him with. But points will be made. They're going to move the defense case forward. But a lot of times those points become critical in summation, not in cross. So I would manage expectations to feel like, wow, he really nailed Albert, when the reality is he probably is going to really nail him. It's just not going to be TV like. I think you'll be surprised that Albert holds up visually more than you might expect, but he's still going to get severely damaged. And the lawyer's revenge comes in summation when you can cite to the testimony, marshal it with all the other evidence, and then you realize how ridiculous and not credible he probably will be.
One last question for you both. Who do you think out of the three lawyers should cross Brian Albert on Monday?
Alan Jackson.
No question. That's not a slight to anyone else. They're all very good, but Jackson, again, who knows how they've determined this, but I would be having Jackson do it for sure.
Great question, great answers. I really appreciate you both for being here tonight. It's
Thank
another
you.
great show.
Yeah.
Audience loves it. We're like still moving up, like over 2,700 people watching.
wow.
Yeah, 2,750 we peaked at. So it's been like, wow, crazy. Thank you so much, Attorney Mark Bederow and my boy Mazza Media. We'll talk to you guys again next week, hopefully.
Thank you, Mike. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
You too.
Take care.
I know. We're the Young Jerks, and we're going to keep covering this over and over and over again. I want to thank all the donations that came in tonight. A lot of donations. Crazy. Really generous. Pete sent a donation, $10. He said, great panel again, Mike. Thanks. First day golfing this year tomorrow. Wonder what I will talk about for 4 hours. I can imagine. I've had a lot of those conversations in my life recently too. I hope you enjoy the weather tomorrow, Pete. Enjoy the golf. It's good to be outside. Leslie, frequent contributor too, just like Peter. She sent $10. She said, thanks, Mike, and thanks, guys, for great feedback. Thank you so much, Leslie. Also had some other donations. Diane sent a $20 donation. She said, "Love this show. Keep up the good work." Thank you so much, Diane. Sandy sent $2. Thank you so much, Sandy. Also, Jeffrey Ward sent $5 for the trial coverage today. Thank you so much. Erin sent $10 today. She said, "Thank you for your nightly recap show and great guests." Thank you so much, Erin. Kathy sent 10 last night. She said, "These are after trial chats. You are awesome. Love from Nahant." Like a North Shore person like me. Melissa also sent some money last night. She said, "Just to show my appreciation for your daily and nightly coverage of this case. Love your station." Thank you so much. Christina also sent $20. She said, "Love this collaboration." Jim sent 25. He said, "This is a gift. Thank you so much." We also had some donations come in on the Cash App that I'm going to read off real quickly if I can get them back up. Grammy D. I love Grammy D. She sent $10. She said, "For Mike, Mark, and Mazza." Thank you so much, Grammy. Philip sent $10. He says, "Free Karen Reed." Absolutely, Philip. Free Karen Reed indeed. Also, some donations came in last night. I may not have been able to read last minute. Paul sent $20. He said, "Really appreciate Mark Bederow's commentary." Thank you so much, Paul. We also got a $5 donation from Carrie. Thank you so much for that. We're the Young Jerks. My name is Mike Crawford. You just heard some great guests. I'm really happy about our shows lately and all of you supporting. Really appreciating it. And I can't wait to see what happens on Monday, just like all of you. I may do a quick little show, play some video tomorrow night, either Saturday or Sunday night. I love to just to kick back and do kind of the solo shows too, and just go through the video with you guys watching. There's so much content to go through. Watch it a second and third time. Might do that tomorrow night. We'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling. I guess I'm going to close with a little Chris Albert. Again, we started the show. I want to make sure everyone sees this. John Como sent me a couple quick clips, which I love. I love the Chris Albert one. And I also love this other one where Blank and one of the Albert women, totally different answers, conflicting. So we're going to play those videos to close it out tonight. Thank you so much, everyone who's been supporting us. And I want to especially thank you for 10,000. Last night we talked about it. Right at the end of the show, we weren't sure if we're going to hit it. And then we did. We hit 10,000. We're up over like 10,200 or something now. It's just amazing to see. Turtle Boy talked about this, Aiden, about how many followers, new followers he got over the last 24 hours. Same thing with the justice groups. The numbers are way up. Our show too. I can't believe how many followers we've received over like the last 48 hours. It's amazing. So please, if you haven't, please subscribe, follow us, like us, share it to friends and family that you know would be interested in our content, because it is getting out there. I want to thank everyone. And if you're a new listener, new subscriber, new follower, please come back and check it out again. We do shows all the time. We've been going live every single weeknight of the trial. We're going to continue that as long as possible. And if you haven't, if this is your first time listening, please make sure you hit the subscription button. Let me have a little sip. There we go. Diane says, "Amazing show last night. Congratulations on 10,000. Yes, congratulations to all of us. I feel like we all celebrated together. It was a great moment last night. I've been celebrating all day. So Boston MA 7-8 something says 10,300 followers. Was it just last night that we celebrated 10,000? Exactly. See what I'm saying? We just keep going up. And I'm looking at the analytics on YouTube, and it's just like this. We hit an all-time high last night in terms of number of views, number of subscribers, number of everything. And today, I think we just topped it again. I think tonight's going to be our biggest show ever. This just amazing. FKR 2024 just sent $20. They say Colin was leaving out the front door of the time John O'Keefe and Karen Reed were arriving. I'm thinking O'Keefe encountered Colin Albert outside. A fight ensued. Colin brought O'Keefe into the basement of the house where they beat him almost to death. I mean, possibly. I like what the attorney said tonight. We may never really know. That's the sad thing about this. We may never get justice for John O'Keefe. And isn't that kind of what it seems like the defense has been, the prosecutions have been pushing? Seems like all they're trying to do is to disprove these other people did anything more than prove Karen Reed did anything. Really weird. Thank you so much, everyone. Maybe we'll see. I think we're going to see you tomorrow night. I think we're going to do a quick show tomorrow night. Not sure if it's going to be early or later. I kind of like the later shows, especially on the weekends when I know I don't have to get up. Kind of fun. So we may do a late stream tomorrow night, maybe like, third quarter, fourth. Actually, it's the Bruins. I think Bruins and Celtics are on tonight. So we may do something towards the end of the games tomorrow night. We'll see. If not Sunday, I like to do a little weekend show, a little more relaxed, maybe even take some phone calls. I need to have my patience up when I take the phone calls. I don't know if you guys can tell. Sometimes I get a little frustrated by the calls if they go on too long. Sometimes I'm mean. I try not to be mean to my listeners, but all right, we got to go. I thank you so much. My dog's now sleeping in the kennel over here. We all put him to sleep. I got to take him out one more time. Thank you so much. Still 2,000 people watching right now on YouTube. Amazing. Have a great night, everyone. Enjoy the weather this weekend. It's going to be sunny.